a dying star he rose, a warrior forged where the warm winds froze. Steel in his veins, the emperor's creed. Zonex the savior, born to lead. Glory to Zonex, flame of the throne, bearer of light where darkness has grown. In his holy name the heretics fall. Zonex our legend, the emperor's call. From the high world's ash to the black void seas, he spoke of duty upon his knee. With bolter and blade he carved his law, and chaos trembled at what they saw. Glory to Zonex, flame of the throne, bearer of light where darkness has grown. Through blood and ruin his honor stands tall. Zonex our legend, the emperor's call. No demons whisper, no say, no cry could shake his faith beneath the sky. For mankind's hope in battle's breath, he smiled in the face of death. Glory eternal, Zonex the bold, your name in the stars for it told. By faith and fire you answered the call. Zonex our legend, the emperor's
Oh, wrong. There we go. Hello. Welcome to the stream. I'm just getting some dark side weapon tier list in, and I don't know. That's probably gonna be sort of helpful for people who wanna play with good weapons. I mean, I definitely know that I want to play with good weapons, but it's not always the easiest thing in the world to know what weapons are actually good. So let's just jump into it. And also, I'm watching a video from Mr. E. Definitely go drop a like over there for some dark side news and stuff. But yeah, let's see how this goes.
Weapons up and down, and of course, as time goes on, my own experience with these has changed as well. So as I said, this is really important, I think, for new players, because as we all know, if you're an experienced player of Darktide, there's a number of these weapons that are just garbage, and if you invest your time and resources in leveling them up and getting better with them, you'll eventually reach a point where you realize, oops, that was a terrible decision, and I don't want that to happen anyway. The second sort of people that will benefit greatly from this are the sort of people that know better than me, and they're going to make fun of me, and they'll have lots of fun laughing at how wrong I am. But hey, this is just my opinion based on my own personal experience and play experience in the game, plus what I've seen other people do with a lot of these weapons, which is generally way more than I could do. But with that being
same
said,
here. But
what we're going to be doing here today is, of course,
same here. But we're still gonna explore the depths of the weapons there. So it's not a be all end all tier list. I mean, it is a generalization of what's really good, and of course there are just weapons in there that everybody agrees is just absurdly good. But yeah, of course, there's some personal preference in here. But so do I. I also have some personal preferences, and some of the weapons he says there's flipping good or really bad. I might disagree. I might agree. Hopefully, I'm gonna agree with a lot of it, but let's see.
Separating these weapons into the tiers here, and let me go ahead and explain the tiers as you see them. We're first going to start out with the best in-game tier. These are only going to be a select few weapons. These are the weapons that are the best mark of their class. They're the best on whatever class they're on, plus all the other classes it's available on. They just simply outperform all other options, and if you are making a build that can slot this weapon in, it's going to be the best option to slot it in. They typically have just way higher stats. They are jacks of all trades, and yeah, they're just super, super good. I'm certain that many of you, if you play the game at all, have a few of these in mind already. What might exist up here in this best in-game tier? Following that up, though, with the best
Yeah, I definitely
class
have my
tier,
ideas,
these are the
but
two
let's see if
tiers if
they're
you're trying
right.
to push.
Okay, so let's see if I'm right here. The dueling sword Mark IV is definitely up in best in the game. It has been there forever. Um, Let me see. Can I find? It might be hidden by behind there. Is that the fourth grade sword? This one is definitely up there also. It's busted. It's really good. The Hive Scum's weapon here, they also scale to the moon. Like they're super solid. And that's sort of my predictions there. I don't know. All right, let's
And
keep
get
watching.
into higher difficulties if you're trying to see if you can climb to Havoc 40. These are the two tiers you should really be honed in on, because this is where all the quality stuff is, the stuff that is not going to slow down as the enemies ramp up the difficulty. The best in class is going to apply to at least one, if not two weapons on each class in this game, and these are going to be your best options, your best picks, as I said before. Just you have an all-round solid build, right? These are going to be good against all sorts of enemies.
Yeah, so best in class is basically it's good against everything, but it's probably gonna be better against one type, more likely. Um, but it's still usable in all situations. That's best in class, right? Best in game is just good against anything. Like it's borderline broken. Like
Whether it's armored or bosses. The thing I did away with from the last time we did this tier list is I had a separation last time around where I was talking about how these weapons aren't effective versus crushers and these ones are, but there are certain weapons in the game that do solid damage against crushers but just aren't very good overall, and so I wanted to kind of remove that distinction. I will make a specific
kind of what I
mention if
said.
a weapon is effective against crushers and the carapace threat as it exists, but we can always just keep our fingers crossed that they also just remove carapace. Then we'll go into the competitive tier. This is when I'm saying these weapons are still viable. You will not be shooting yourself in the foot by selecting these weapons. They are just simply behind some of the other stuff, just by a little
just
bit.
don't
Even
follow
at
up
times,
in
terms
these two
of
tiers. Yeah.
staying at that upper cutting edge of competitiveness. These weapons here are in the running, but they might have just a few slight flaws that's going to bring them behind those absolute peak weapons up here, and you will not be sort of hurt that much by choosing something in the competitive tier. If you are a player who has achieved the higher ranks of skill and you're getting bored with the stuff that's up here, if you play with this a bunch, these will be the weapons I recommend you move to next, because these weapons are still going to be really solid, give you a good amount of damage. You're going to be contributing, but they aren't just full on meme mode like some of the stuff lower.
Yeah, no, they still give you a good challenge.
Following this on is the tier. This is where things start to get a little, let's say, sketchy. These weapons, I would.
Oh, also, I'm gonna put the Ogren's Shield up in best in the game because it's also a It's a really solid weapon also. And did I say that Abetus Shockmaul? Abetus Shockmaul is also flipping broken.
When I see people bring them into games, I'm like, I'd really rather you not. I don't actually say it, but that's what I'm thinking. And when you see players playing with weapons like this, it's generally for me one or two options. They're absolutely goated and they're about to play out of their fucking mind with
Yeah,
this weapon, or
the
they
guards are
don't
absolute
know that
trash.
this is not actually that good a weapon and they're about to have a bad time. And yeah, you'll see when we talk about the weapons here, there's a good number of weapons that are in this category that I think are just missing some crucial element to be able to be really played uh, effectively in the game, especially as the difficulties get higher and higher and the density of enemies gets heavier.
Mm.
Following that on is no, just the no tier.
Yeah, just no.
These are the
just
ones
don't.
that are just flatly like, nah, just don't bring this. It's not an exciting weapon. It's got worse stats than some other competitors. There's really no reason to be bringing this weapon, and there are better options out there. Enough said, right? And then finally, no, just no. Do not bring this weapon. These are the worst in their mark, and they're like weapon.
Like in the notes here, if you bring this, you're actively throwing the game. Is what that means. This you might be throwing, or you might be really good with it, and thereby like make up for the downfall of the weapon. But this, yeah, no, it's just bad. Good luck playing with it.
Family is probably also already not that good. You'll never see anybody really bringing these weapons outside of the lowest difficulties in the game generally. So that is why most of these will not be upsetting anybody. The things I'm putting down here, these are the things that nobody is bringing as a fact already generally. But with that being said, yeah, well, that's our whole ranking assortment. And as a reminder, of course, these are my personal experiences. I'll be kind of giving an evaluation based on Auric to Havoc. I think that the game should be balanced around an Auric difficulty. That's my favorite difficulty to play at. But, if you are trying to push those higher difficulties, obviously stuff up here is going to be better. And of course, obviously the best decision to make if you're trying to push from Auric and into Havoc, etc., is to subscribe to the channel. Help me push to Warhammer 40k subscribers. And,
yeah, I would agree.
Yeah,
I mean, I would also like
and tell me.
I would also like a subscriber too. I mean, I'm hanging out at what 36. Yay!
Also in the comments if you think that I'm wrong about anything, and I'll just delete your comment. Okay, let's start here. Let's pick randomly here. Of course, since last time we have added in a couple here. We've got the Hive Scum weapons mixed in here, but I'm going to save those for last, since the Hive Scum has been saved for last as well. And let's start with some nice, juicy, normal weapons that a lot of classes have access to. Let's start with the tag axes, shall we? The tag axes are very solid weapons, incredibly high damage per second potential, really high crits. They have good blessings, very solid all-rounders, and as many of you have seen, I have been doing challenge runs on my stream, and the tag axe carried me for a number of levels. Now, the best one of these, in general, is the tag axe Mark 7. The reason the TAC-Axe Mark 7 stands out above the rest is because the TAC-Axe 7 has a higher base damage. One of the things that the TAC-Axes don't have is very much raw damage, and that means that all the crits and stuff that they're doing, they're getting like 3 or 4 attacks per second, but the individual hits don't hit that hard. And so this one kind of strikes that nice medium balance between
a
those,
medium balance
it has
between
similarly high attack speeds, but these movesets are really simple, sweeping, and has a heavier base damage, which can help to one-shot more targets. Now, this is my recommendation for like Arbites and Zealot and all those classes that could use this effectively, but on Hive Scum particularly, I recommend this one, the Mark IV, on Hive Scum only. Reason being, this weapon is going to fall behind this one on every other class, but...
So I agree with this. The first tag X he put up there is really good on every on any class except for Hive Scum maybe, and that's because Hive Scum has a unique interaction with some talent points you got, but I feel like it's gotta be explained there.
this one right here, the Mark IV, I believe, has a uppercut and an overhead that have 30% innate rending on them. And
Hmm.
the Hive Scum is kind of unique in the sense that he can make up for that low base damage by stealing all the enemy's damage with hyper violence and of course rampage. So this class can turbo boost the base damage of this weapon, so he doesn't have to worry about the low base, and then he can use that special rending attack to pop crushers and maulers, no problem. The only one that kind
Yeah,
of lags
true.
behind here is our last mark. I'll put it in the competitive tier. Again, it's just going to be an Unga Bunga light attack weapon. It's just this one doesn't stand out in any way, shape, or form that makes it
No, it's just not better than the other
exceptional.
ones.
So yeah, just like left click through the level, easy peasy. These weapons are very solid in a class that can use them. You won't have a bad time. And yeah, good stuff. Let's from there, since we're talking about Unga Bunga, let's talk about a weapon that has changed a bit since the last time around, and that is our Bully Club friend. We have the Mark 3B Bully Club, which
Yeah.
last time around
Oh, the downfall of the Bully Club. It used to be so good, but then they went and nerfed Ogren. The glory days of the Bully Club. No longer. That's sad.
was ranked as one of the GOAT weapons in the game. It was one of the best. Unfortunately, since then, the Ogren has received a nerf, and the Ogren hit two nerfs that are really sizable for this weapon. One is that the batter skill was nerfed. It went from being 2 stacks of bleed on light attack to a 1 stack of bleed on every light attack. The heavy attacks have maintained at 4 stacks, but this really hurt this weapon because this weapon is the light attack king of the Ogren class. It was just spamming light attack, staggering the fuck out of everything, and then putting 16 stacks of bleeds on them in no time at all. Add to that, they also nerfed Heavy Hitter and the impactful minor keystone within it, and that means that this weapon, which already had pretty solid stagger values, is now losing a good bit of stagger, and that just makes you a little bit less safe, right? More stagger is better, especially on Ogren. So this weapon has gotten bumped down quite a bit. I don't think it's the best in class anymore.
No.
I think it is merely in that competitive tier.
It
The fact that you
it's still good, but since the nerfs to Ogren, it's just, well, it's not as good, you know. But you can still you can still do good with it. It's just compared to where it were before, it's kind of meh, honestly.
you kind of have to rely on heavy attacking to get any amount of bleeds on targets now, like any true damaging amount of bleeds, means there's just better options, right? Especially since you're going to want to start the engagement with a heavy attack, and this weapon is pretty limp at doing that. But fortunately, the Ogren does have other options for this. And since we're talking about the one Bully Club, this is the best of the three. I'll give the tier to the second Bully Club,
Yeah,
which
true.
is hiding somewhere here.
Oh, commercial time! Yay! Oof.
There it is. This is the Mark 1. It gets the tier. It's got strong single target damage, but it is a heavy overhead strike down. And that is not really something that you want with an impact weapon. I mean, you want it, I guess, but for an impact weapon, what's really good, or what was really good about the Mark 3 is that you could just cleave everything in front of you, slapping it around, staggering the hell out of it, and then you would just stack bleeds on them and stagger them and stop them from hitting you. This weapon doesn't have those high impact values on its light attacks, and its heavy attack is a single target strike down, so how are you going to keep like 3 or 4 enemies off you at a time? It's not all that good for
It's
it.
not
And if you're
great.
going to go for a heavy attack strike down, I can think like 3 better weapons that do that on the Ogren than this guy does. And then, of course, the worst one is this Mark II. That's just the no weapon. It's just like a 1-to-1 sort of stat equivalency with this Mark 1, but it's just a way worse moveset. It doesn't really have anything that it offers in terms of moveset, so avoid that at all costs. If you're still interested in going for this weapon, just play with the Mark III, but if you want a better version of this, I highly recommend its new replacement, which is, of course, the Power Maul, which is a
the Power Maul
weapon.
The Power Maul got a giant glow up. It is a beautiful weapon now. It basically does everything these do, but better. That's it. It's just It's a better hit stick, basically. It just is.
Is the new Bully Club. Its light attacks are just Bully Club attacks. Its heavy attacks are Bully Club attacks. But additionally, every 10 seconds, get this absolutely immense empowered wallop. And this thing is super, super destructive. It is kind of perfect for everything Ogren does because Ogren needs to stagger targets. This thing can not only instantly kill the target that it hits, but it staggers everything around them.
Mm.
And so you're just breaking up this horde. You'll send them sprawling. Like, it is a big blast. And you don't really realize till you're playing how fast 10 seconds is. Like, that's 6 times a minute that you're dumping this on enemies. Effectively, like, 100 or 200 times a game, you get to drop this attack that can instantly kill anything up to a crusher. Like, it can get close to killing a crusher in one shot.
Yeah.
And one thing I really love about this weapon is that it covers up for a weakness that I've always felt really sucked for Ogren, which is the Ogren has really poor anti-mutant counters. The Ogren's weapons that are heavy,
Oh, yeah, it has
like,
the
that
worst
hit
mutant
for
counters, yeah.
high single target damage that can get rid of mutants, are really slow, like the Brank's pickaxe. And so, like, when you had the Bully Club, you could get juggled a couple times by the mutant because those light attacks didn't kill it fast enough and you can't stagger it. So this weapon can just charge up and just instantly blat the mutant, no problem. Plus, like, its next door neighbors 2 doors down as well will also die. So yeah, the Paul has ascended. It also plays really, really well with the Skull Crusher Blessing. It plays really well with some talents that expand your blast radius. So you can go blast radius, and then you can do the fire radius, so it puts like fire stacks on targets too, which is pretty fun. Yeah, just a really good all-round weapon. Plays really well into what Ogren does. I don't think it's the absolute best weapon on the Ogren right now, but it is certainly the second best. And that should be really saying something, honestly. Like, they buffed this weapon, and then like, it's suddenly the second best. That means there's not a whole lot of good options on the class, unfortunately. Let's go from the Ogren and go back to more general stuff. Let's do just chainswords, I suppose. Chainswords are very much in this tier for me right now. The
Yeah,
chainswords don't really
I agree.
differentiate each other too much. They are just
Chainswords
inversions
are
of their
okay.
own
It's
attack patterns.
not
The
particularly
chainswords
amazing.
have this problem where their DPS potential isn't very high, and the way that you would get more damage out of them is by revving them and like latching them in. The problem being is that in Darktide, you sort of have to have low time to kill or high stagger. And these weapons don't have either of those, right? They don't kill Horde or elites or whatever any faster than any other weapon. And
But they have decent damage, right? But decent damage counts for nothing if you have no stacker. If you have no stacker, you can't be stuck into a horde, right? Like, you can't just murder a horde. There's a higher likelihood that the horde will just run you over. But if you have a weapon with low damage and a crapload of stacker, you will most likely kill the horde, right, without taking any damage because everything will just be laying on the floor. Also, in that case, your teammates will just help you. So if you keep everything on the floor, well, it's easier for your team to dispatch that, right? So yeah, I would much rather have low damage, high stacker than high damage and no stacker. Depending on the build, because that might vary. So take that statement with a grain of salt.
and they do not stagger. They have really, really poor stagger values. So what's to stop those enemies from hitting you while you're doing that? And the answer is nothing. They're going to hit you back while you're doing it, especially all the enemies that are around them. So yeah, these weapons just kind of struggle, and they're available in like every class, and I can't think of a class that would use this better than any other alternative. So these weapons, they did get a buff against Carapace armor, because now if you let it rip all the way, the last rip of the chainsword will do some pretty good damage against Carapace. But think about the number of other weapons in the game right now, across all the classes that these are available on, that can just kill that Carapace target before you could do that. And as I'll talk
True.
about here in a
Yeah.
second when I talk about the chain axes as well, I think the game's design is sort of navigating us away from selecting these chain weapons because the commitment to like chaining and holding on a target and ripping them like that is just far too long on higher difficulties. The way the intensity of the game is picking up,
Mm,
it's just no space to do it. And yeah, these things are just very mid. They've got some decent blessings, but poor base stats that really holds them back. And I can think
yeah.
of like pretty much
There's
every other
not
weapon on
enough.
these classes is going to be a better option.
There's not enough incentive to use these because, as he said, there's just stuff that is heads and shoulders above it. Like it's just, yeah. I mean, if they buff the damage to, I would say, flak or something like that, they it would be a lot better. Um, but the problem is with all the carapace there is on the higher difficulties, and yeah, no, they are doing absolutely diddly squat to that. So that's sort of why they're in the meh tier, and not getting out of that.
If you're going for that. We'll also talk about shovels. Should we do shovels? Let's do veteran shovels. I feel pretty similarly about the veteran shovels. Um, First of all, though, I'm gonna go ahead and give the veteran shovel Mark One the ranking here. It's
Yeah,
okay, I guess, but the problem with the shovels it's not in the blessings and it's not in the move set, it's in the base stats. Yet again, these are like you ever seen like an anime or something where like there's a swordsman and he's so talented he just fights with like a wooden training sword instead of fighting with an actual like katana or
it's
whatever?
a good
That's what it feels
analogy.
like to fight with the shovel. It feels like you're intentionally nerfing yourself because you're like, shit, I don't want to like flex an enemies too hard. I'll fight you with this dirty fucking latrine digger. And that is exactly what I feel like when I'm playing with these weapons. These other two, though, I'm going to put in no tier. The
Yeah,
time investment required to like bend these things and get the hit and like actually cash out on the damage is too high. There's way better options, and since these are veteran specific weapons, I can point to one specific better veteran option that is going to do
they're just too clunky. They're too clunky to use, and the hit it produces is it's just not high enough value to what do you call it, excuse the long animation time. Uh, so either they need to make it do a crap load more damage when you do hit with it, right? Or they need to speed up that animation quite a bit.
way better. The only reason I'm ranking the Mark 1 higher is because this weapon is just unga bunga. Like it just does it's solid, I guess, at just swinging left and right. And the
Yeah,
weapon special here is a little thing that like pokes the enemy's eye out and has a high stagger value. So it can be pretty decent at just kind of like holding your own. But again, you could do the same thing 10 times over with any other weapon on this class.
mm.
Uh, yeah, it's decent at best, and but it just feels like a nerfed version of anything else. Speaking of the anything else, I suppose the weapon that I was talking about, that if you want to go for an empowered attack that actually does damage, it would be the force sword, the power sword. Sorry, the power sword has two marks for the veteran. One that I would say you should stay away from. This
Yeah.
one, I think it's Mark 3 or whatever it's called, and the one that is absolutely peak, best in class, is the Mark 6. The difference here is literally down to moveset. The moveset on this one, the Mark 6, enables you to do a push stab attack. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go watch go watch a build guide video or something of mine where I'm doing the force.
So a push stab attack, that's when you block, you push, and you keep holding the attack button. You do like a stab thing. It works with all weapons. It's just this one does a stab out of the push instead of like a slash or a like a strike down bonk or something else, right?
Sword, like a melee veteran or whatever. The push stab attack does a little thrust that is very sharp, and you aim it at the enemy's head, and it does like a couple thousand damage. And then you follow that up with an overhead light attack in the
Mm.
same attack chain, and you will instantly kill anything up to a crusher. Crushers still almost die. I think they do if you have like focus target and stuff in there. very devastating little weapon combo there. Pair that up with the fact that your light attack slashes are just left and right. You can just level a whole horde, easy peasy. This weapon is a little bit clunky because that is the empowering thing you got to do over and over. And of course, there is a blessing tax here. You pretty much have to take Power Cycler
Yeah.
to use this weapon, but it is still really, really high at a baseline stat value. You're going to be able to annihilate anything. You know, one-shot poking mutants and ragers and maulers is not at all bad. And the veteran is kind of a class that is uniquely outfitted to do well with this thing because he can rely on his range weapon at times and then swap over to this when he needs to pick off like 1 or 2 targets and then go back. He doesn't have to worry about fighting with it 100% of the time. It is a pretty slow moving weapon, which is another downside. The other weapon, the other power sword, stay away from it. It just doesn't have a very good moveset. You'll be losing out on what makes this weapon able to perform and get kills at the highest level. So yeah, stay away from that one. Hit this Mark 6 one. We should also, from there, talk about one of my favorite weapons on the veteran class and on a couple classes. That's the Shock Maul. The Shock Maul is getting the best.
Yeah, the Shock Maul is
this is the best class on
so
two
good.
classes: the veteran and on the Arbites. The Shock Maul. I need to expound on this for a little bit. The Shock Maul is always one of those weapons where I see people, why the hell are you using a Shock Maul? Isn't that weapon suck or something? It used to, but they got a lot of base stat buffs, and now this weapon is very unique in this game. This is actually one of my favorite weapons in the game in terms of its design. It is such a sleeper OP weapon. This weapon has, of course, the ability to shock prod enemies. When they're shocked, they are just completely CC'd. You can do whatever you want to them, and that is incredibly powerful because there's a ton of enemies in this game that are obnoxious to deal with, and you can't stop them from doing their thing. Bulwarks, Ragers, Crushers, right? They're coming up to drop an overhead on you. This weapon can shut all of that down, guaranteed. You just shock them, and now you can follow-up attack on them. The difference between these two mauls, by the way, is that this one here starts with a sweep like this from right to left, and so you can like hit multiple
the other
small
one is,
enemies, and then
opposite.
the light attack sweeps back this way, and so you go heavy attack, light attack, heavy attack, light attack, just sweeping back and forth. But the shock attack, if you do the special weapon special and then follow up with a heavy, is just heavy overhead strike downs on the crown of their head over and over. And the strike downs on these weapons have 90% rending. So you're going to have an amazing damage efficacy into crushers, etc. No problem. You can knock out a crusher in 3 hits with this thing. And this weapon, as I said, negates the threat of all those enemies that would otherwise be just kind of in your space, like bulwarks, etc. If you've ever had one of those moments where you have that situation where like all the enemy horde just explodes out of a door, you're like, how the fuck? Oh my god, it's overrunning us, and it's trying to get past you to get someone behind
just
you.
shock its ass.
You're gonna get surrounded. All you gotta do is start shocking all of their leading units, like shock their bulwark, shock their crusher, and as soon as you get that taser on them, they're immobilized for like 3 or 4 seconds. You get the space, you get the hell out of there. This weapon, the real selling point here is it has Skull Crusher on it, and Skull Crusher is the best blessing in the game. If it's on a weapon, chances are it's goated, and it buffs it up a lot, especially if it has
Skull Crusher is so good because he's surely gonna explain this also, but Skull Crusher doesn't only improve the damage that you do; it also improves the damage that your team does. So it's absurdly powerful.
a high stagger value, and this weapon does have stagger value. So when you have this weapon, you can boost the damage that enemies take, which multiplies your entire team's damage to any target by 40, 80, and I think you can even get to 120 if you can keep them staggered for long enough, because it stacks the more you hit them. So yeah, this weapon can increase the enemy damage enemies take, which applies to bosses, and of course melt the shit out of captain shields. This is really, really good with the veteran, because the veteran, again, can be relying on his ranged weapon most of the time and pull this out to deal with bosses and captains. You'll notice the difference when you have one of these on your team, because captains will die instantly. Their shields will get burst over and over and over. The Arbites is the other really effective user of this weapon, because, of course, that Skull Crusher blessing can be applied when he gets headshots, not when the enemy is staggered, but instead just on headshots. So all you gotta do is headshot an enemy a couple times, and they start taking immense damage. And it goes toe to toe with the Mark III Arbites Shock Maul, which is really saying something. So yeah, definitely try out the Shock Maul. It's a weapon that a lot of people sleep on because it looks so clunky and stupid. But trust me, it is not weak, not in the slightest.
No, it's not. It's
We'll go
really
from
good.
there and do Eviscerators next. Eviscerators, I would say, are in that competitive tier. The
I agree
Eviscerator
with that.
gets
Yeah.
the benefit of being on the Zealot class. Solid
So they eviscerators are a little slow and they're a little well clunky to use, right? Uh, the only benefit is if you play a Martyrdom Zealot, you get a lot of what do you call it, attack speed out of them, and that just makes them feel so much better to use. It's also they hit really hard. Like you can take a boss down fairly quickly with them.
damage here. The thing about the Eviscerator is that it is very slow.
Hmm.
Fortunately, the Zealot got a nice buff to the Martyrdom talent, which kind of helps to make up for that. It boosts all of the animation speeds of revving and all that stuff for this thing. It enables it to just kind of compete in the way it couldn't before because it is just too slow a swinging weapon. Of course, it's going to make you slow as molasses to move around with, but you can use your range weapon to do that. And this weapon has very solid and respectable boss damage in both the monstrosity bosses and
Mm-hmm.
captains. So you won't hurt bringing one of these to the team. I think there are better options in
Yeah,
the
that
heavy
definitely
sword
is.
sort of category. The relic blade being the one I'm referring to here. But of course, they're fine, right? They're doing just fine. I don't think I would need to see these buffed in any way, shape, or form. I think they're doing just
No,
fine for what they are.
there's yeah,
They're
they're
just
good
a
where they
little
are.
bit
Yeah.
clunky to play with, right? They're definitely the best chain weapons in the game currently, and so that's good for them. You can like one or two piece of boss with these. Good stuff, yeah. Heavy Eviscerator Zealot is doing just okay right now. No issues there. You won't see it a whole lot because there's better options, but it's still good. Let's do our first of a couple of Hive Scum weapons here, though. Let's talk first about the Bone Saw. The Bone Saw, since we're talking about a saw-based weapon, the Bone Saw, I would say, is one of the best-in-class weapons on the Hive Scum. The Bone Saw is a super versatile weapon, and it happens to be able to be played with both ranged and melee builds. The fact that this weapon can innately apply Toxin
Mm,
is incredibly valuable for the Hive
it's
Scum,
super
because the
strong.
Hive
Yeah.
Scum can get a bunch of benefits out of having enemies coated with this Toxin. Both the purple and the green trigger all of the talents that are associated with this sort of stuff. And this weapon has a strong enough base stat line that you can use it even if you aren't spec'd into specifically like a melee build. So you'll see on all my range builds, I use this weapon as well because it has enough damage and stagger that you can like hold off a rager or something like that. You can chunk them. And the
Yeah.
purple toxin here that you can coat the blade with can increase the damage that bosses and stuff take. Just a good all-around weapon. Nice high base stamina value of like 4.5 or something, so you'll have plenty to block and shove with, etc. Damage over time effects are good and helpful, and this thing doesn't have a whole lot of problem with various types of armor or anything either. So it ends up being a good all-rounder weapon.
Yeah.
Very
I
solid. I'll say
agree
it
with
several
that.
other
Yeah.
times throughout the video, I'm sure, but most of the new-ish weapons, the weapons that have been released since like a year ago or so, are pretty much peak. Like almost all the new DLC weapons and stuff are very peak. They're doing incredibly well in the game. Yeah, very, very good stuff. Yeah, especially the chem on hit, the green chem on hit is really good. You can start out a boss
Mm-hmm.
engagement by sniping with the Tox pistol a couple times, and then just stay on them and keep hitting them once every like couple of seconds, and this will keep 30 stacks of toxin on them. It'll melt like any target.
Yeah.
Just very effective in that sense. Let's go and talk about our pickaxes. I keep adjusting the screen. I don't need to do that. Adjusting the screen is probably messing up the recording. Okay, pickaxes here. We have 3 to choose from. Where's my Barovian? There it is. Okay, so there are 3 pickaxes. There's the Branks, this is the Carcelis, and there's the Barovian. The problem here is that these weapons are...
I mean, they're not bad. There's better stuff, and you can make some really funny builds with them. But they don't really play into the whole Ogren thing with a crap load of stacker, like you just stacker the whole front line, sadly. They do a lot of damage, and you can do a lot with them. They fall short at some points.
They don't do stagger, right? And the
Mm.
number of enemies that are in the game right now kind of necessitate that on higher difficulties, as you proceed, you need to stagger enemies. You need to keep them from hitting you. And
Yeah.
none of these weapons particularly do that very well. The two that are the best here, the ones that are competitive, are the Branks and the Car Solus. The
Yes.
Branks is probably the one that is the most standout here because it does something that really no other Ogren weapon, well, maybe one other Ogren weapon can do, which is it can single target destroy one dude, right? You can pick out
Yeah.
one guy and go, you're dead. The problem with it is
It's
it
very
takes
slow.
forever to do that
Yeah.
effectively. And the horde clear on the back end of this thing, it kind of reminds me of Thunderhammer, where you are using push stabs and stuff in order to clear hordes because it's got such a wonky ass moveset. So
Mm.
yeah, this thing has a weird moveset, but it does hit hard on that single hit. That's sort of
Basically, what you do with that weapon to keep cleaving is you do a push attack, right? And then you do a heavy attack, because then you will do your push attack and you will cleave, and the heavy attack comes from the other side and cleave the other way. Or is it the same way? I forget. But yeah, it's two cleaves attack, and you can just keep chaining that. The only downside there is then is it costs a lot of stamina to do. It's maybe not the best thing.
the foil with the Carcelis, which has an Unga Bunga light click spam sort of moveset, does sacrifice that heavy attack potential though.
Mm.
The reason that I rank these only competitive and not like best in class or anything is because, again, the value and the amount of damage and stuff that you're going to provide with these is, I don't think that the damage of the Branks is going to outweigh what you could be doing with other weapons
No.
in the class. So, like, think about this, right? How often are you really using the strike down on the Branks and getting a single target hit on like some armored target?
Not a lot. I mean, it's funny to do. Don't get that wrong. It's funny to see like Crusher just collapse like. It's really funny, right? But yeah, no. You're probably not gonna do that a ton in a game.
Not all that often, excepting a couple of combats. If you could, though, if you traded it off and wanted to go for a weapon that only every 10 seconds could eviscerate one heavily armored target, well, then you could just play Power Maul. Play Power Maul, and then every 10 seconds you blow up one guy, and everything around it goes cascading to the ground. And then the rest of the time you can also be staggering stuff and knocking it back and keeping it from ever hitting you, and you get a better moveset outside of that. The Carcelis finds itself in a weird spot right now where it's the best, like, Unga Bunga spammer for, like, direct damage. These guys, by the way, they have good direct damage. It's good damage numbers on there.
Yeah.
Good damage numbers on Ogren isn't much because, like, good damage on like a weapon like the Power Sword is great. The mobility sucks in this weapon, etc. But the class can.
It kind of comes back to why the Mark III Bully Club here, right? Before the Ogren nerf was really, really good. It was because it had a lot of stacker, right? After the nerf to it, I don't know. It's just not as good anymore. It's sad to say, but that the reason why this one was good was because of well the immense stacker potential of it, and it's just not there yet anymore. I should say it's not there anymore. So that's why it's down here. The damage is pretty much the same, but the stacker is gone, and yeah, the stacker and Ogren is, well, the difference between staying alive or being dead. That's it.
Can dodge attacks. It doesn't need to like stagger. It can just like kill stuff and avoid. This class has to kill stuff and stop the enemies from attacking them because you're not going to be able to dodge everything perfectly with this class. So yeah, the Carcelis is kind of like, it's still competing because it's got a high enough DPS value. but it doesn't have anything that's really special like the Branks does, being able to instantly delete something. The Barovian is in the tier for the same reason here. It loses out on the ease of use, and it loses out on that single target blat potential, so I'm going to put it one tier down in the category.
Yeah, I agree.
And pivoting from there, since we're talking about the pickaxes, let's talk about other axes, the combat axes. We have 3 to choose from here as well. We've got the Antax, we've got the Rashad, and we've...
So let's see if I'm right here. There's only one axe in here that can really deal with carapace, and it's not particularly good at it. And the rest are just kind of meh. There's definitely one in here. This one, it's going into no tier. It's terrible. It is complete and utter garbage. So let's see.
Got the Atlas, which is hanging out somewhere here. So the king of these 3 is the Rashad, which will be in the competitive tier. It has the first target. It has the finesse and the penetration blessings, or what are they called? The stats on it. So this thing has really, really high potential for like headshot critical multiplier damage. Like you can just absolutely blow up a single target just by chopping them over and over. The trade-off for that is that this weapon has really kind of limp like existence outside of those heavy chops.
Yeah, there's
and
not...
again, I can think of other weapons that could heavy attack.
It doesn't really have a lot of horde clearing potential. So yeah, you might be good at taking one dude out, but guess what? There's a lot more than one dude in Darktide.
To the head and deal a similar amount of damage, and then have a better experience overall. Also, all these combat axes have exactly 0 like movement speed associated with them, so you don't get to move and attack or like zip around the arena, and that really sucks because you can definitely do that with some of the other assassin like single target type weapons. The ones that are falling behind here are definitely the Antax, which is going to go in the tier. The Antax historically was one of the best weapons in the game, if not the best weapon in the game when it launched. I don't know if anyone remembers this, but this weapon plus brutal momentum plus whatever.
It's mostly because there weren't as many what do you call it, carapace armored enemies. This weapon does absolutely nothing to carapace. Like, it's borderline useless against carapace. It's kind of, I mean, it's just bad.
Whatever else it was, this thing was so strong because its light attacks are like over 200 damage, and so you would just light attack everything to death. It wouldn't even have a chance. And there weren't that many enemies in the game at the time that could actually stand up to this. Like maulers, you just chop in the body 3 times. You'd encounter occasional crushers and stuff, but you could take those out with other utilities. Then we entered the era of like Havoc and stuff like that, and the crusher problem, the population of enemies that the Antax doesn't kill outright in like 1 or 2 chops went up, and then that just cratered the Antax usage because it cannot kill a fucking crusher, dude. You're gonna be all there all day. Oh, also this thing's boss damage is garbage. It's terrible. I used to play Antax Zealot, and like I would just be chopping on a boss all day for like 3% of their HP. Pitiful stuff. So yeah, it's one use. It's really good at like low level games. So if you're a person who never plays outside of Malice, play the Antax, baby, easy peasy. Left click, just light attack spam the entire time.
Other
it
than
doesn't
that,
kill something, it'll stagger it, and you'll see that it's actually quite good at low level games because if bots get it equipped, they can actually survive against hordes way longer than bots that don't have this weapon. So that's what it's good for. But the weapon that's not good here is the Atlas. I take a fat dump on this thing every time I make a tier list. It's like a weapon that has
terrible.
no good moves. Its light attacks are weird and slow and too vertical, so you're going to hit like one enemy at tops. Its heavy attack is supposed to be a single target killing attack, but it's a sweep. So if you like accidentally hit an enemy in the way, and it's just not good. It just sucks. I've never seen a player actually use this in a game.
No.
Fun fact. So I'm gonna put it in the no tier because
I have never seen anybody using this what do you call it, at high difficulty. Like, I've never seen one at high difficulty using this weapon as a like unironically using this weapon, right? I've seen people, of course, I've seen people on high difficulties using this weapon just to see if they can complete the game with it because it's that bad. it's terrible.
I know no one's going to defend this fucking thing. It sucks. And I just don't think this weapon even needs to exist. Like, you've got both avenues covered here, right? You've got your heavy attack, you've got your light attack. What do you need this for? Okay, we now should talk about the Ogren shovels, maybe? We're almost done. Kind of halfway there. Ogren shovels are
Okay.
in a peculiar spot.
Yeah.
I like them for the most part. I'm going to rank this one a no tier, though. This one lost its one gimmick, which was that the uppercut punch on it had enough stagger with the heavy hitter keystone, with the impactful like addition, that you could stagger like demon hosts and bosses and stuff with it. That is no longer the case, and
So-
this is
There's just so many open weapons that just got destroyed because of the changes to the stack of values in the Ogre tree. So I would like to see that remedied. Get give us Ogren back. Ogren needs some love.
this one mark here loses out on the main benefit of the shovel, which is that you can fold the blade and do like a one big blam attack with it. The other two marks are doing okay. Mark 5, I'll give it the eh. Mark 19, I'm going to give it competitive tier. The Mark 5, just a little bit behind the Mark 19 instead of in cases of like move set and stuff. The Mark 19 is just got a really, really solid like base move set, and then of course that bending the shovel blade and hitting the target will just instantly kill just about anything. So it's good for that. The problem with these weapons, and the pickaxes for that matter, is yes, you can like cleave a horde or whatever, and you can single target something, but like this sort of weapon type would be really good on another more evasive class, but it's not good here. It's like you need to be staggering these enemies when you do it. It's cool that you can kill a single target, but you know what else kills a single target? The power maul, or
The
just stabbing
power
them
maul.
and beating them to death while they're on the ground. So yeah, this guy right here, he's good. Like, he has good numbers. You'll put out good numbers playing Shovel Ogren, but you won't be competitive in the way you need to be with Ogren right now, which is staggering the fuck out of everything and making sure that it can't hit you back at all. You need to be way too skilled in order to play with this thing effectively and dodge.
So Ogren is basically all about not letting the enemies play the game at all. Like, if there's anything close to you, it better be laying on its ass. That's it. If it's not laying on its ass, you're doing it wrong, like way wrong.
Dodge the damage incoming. And yeah, that's how I feel about shovels. Overall, about shovels, the thing I really want for these shovels, for the veteran shovels, I forgot to say it earlier, I really wish these were on the Hive Scum. Like, that would be so good on Hive Scum, because Hive Scum's hyper violence and rampage, like, they kind of make up for that low base damage. So you could actually like get some very viable uses out of the shovel there, and it would make sense for Hive Scum, but
Yeah, it makes
unfortunately,
sense.
they are veteran exclusive, so we won't be seeing that change anytime soon. And let's talk Thunderhammers, since we're talking about exclusives. The Thunderhammers are in a bad spot. I have been down on them last time as well. I'll continue to do that because Thunderhammer is falling more and more out of relevance. Every time I see a Thunderhammer Zealot, I'm like, dude, can we just not today? So, like, Thunderhammer, the Crucis Thunderhammer is the better of the two. The Crucis Thunderhammer is the one you'll want to use if you're going for the Zealot bonk build and you want to kill a boss instantly. Whoop-de-doo. There's that for you. But the existence outside of that is literally tortured. Like, playing Thunderhammer Zealot when there's no bosses to kill is just, like, so sucky. It feels so bad. So
I
I
agree.
can't recommend using this, especially not when you could play Relic Blade and get very similar results to killing bosses, and then you'd be useful outside of this sort of stuff. And then the other one, the Iron Helm, is just a no tier because this one is the only one that's good at killing bosses, or has the best boss killing potential. And
The only reason why I like playing the Thunderhammer, it is purely because of the sound of it. You hit an enemy, it just goes bonk, bonk, bonk. That's the only reason I like to play Thunderhammer. But yeah, I agree. It is slow, it's clunky, and it would be good if it's like light attack chain would get a bit of a buff, so you could take out like what you call it, rages and stuff like that a little quicker. Give it a tad bit more stagger on its light attack, so you can actually stagger the what you call it, the rages and stuff. I think that would carry it up to not best in class, but at least up into competitive. It would make it a good bit better.
this one doesn't really have anything to show for it outside of that. So there you go. And speaking of hammers, let's do the Crusher, which is also tier.
Yeah, I agree.
This weapon right here, it's kind of the inverse here. It does activating this weapon does nothing. Like this weapon's activation is pointless. I don't understand how the Ogren Power Maul gets to have his weapon activation that's like a mini nuke, and then the Crusher's weapon activation can barely knock open a Bulwark shield. This weapon is only good when you have full stacks of Skull Crusher on the enemy and full stacks of Slaughterer on you, which fortunately it's like one of the best blessinged weapons in the game, but its base stats in terms of attack power and in terms of attack speed are so low. It's miserable to play with. If you're playing with a weapon, it's like you're challenging yourself an extra level, and you can get some good like stuff out of it, but like you are not gonna be competing with anything up here. It just doesn't have the attack speed or the damage throughput. Yeah, I really want a buff for the Crusher like very badly, and I also want that like
me
Power
too.
Blade to do way more.
I would like the Crusher to have the same explosion thing as the Power Maul. That would be really fun. Fun to do because what you call it? If it worked in conjunction with some of the Senate talents, what you call it? That like that proximity to an enemy, the closer you are to it, with a range attack, right? To just make the explosion like work like a range attack. More damage you do to that target, and it falls off the further away you are. That would be amazing, dude. It'll make it hit really hard when you power it up.
That's just my opinion anyway. Let's also turn down, or I can skip this song because it's too loud. What's next? What about the Blaze swords, the Force swords? We've got 3 here.
It's so good.
Elisi, the Demos, and the Obscurus. There they are. Okay, so the Blaze swords. Obviously, the Demos is one of the best weapons in class. Here, Demos gets Uncanny Strike, it gets Deflector, it gets like Shred. There's all sorts of crazy, crazy good blessings on these swords. They are seriously blessed, pun intended, in the terms of blessings, right? They have so much good stuff here, and that's what's really important for the Psyker, because the Psyker is not a typical melee class. You are not going to be using these swords as your mainline melee DPS, but having this in your melee slot can be incredibly.
Depending on your build, there are some melee builds out there that absolutely do, and they're super powerful and really fun to play. Like with the Demos greatsword, not greatsword, Force sword. You can pretty much consistently two-shot a Crusher. Like just hit it in the head 2 times. It's dead. Just the Demo's blade is really powerful.
Powerful because you can block all attacks. You can block range attacks and melee attacks with Deflector, or you can use Slaughterer and increase your base strength, which will apply to all damage over time effects or whatever else you're doing, which is crazy, crazy good. The other two, I'm going to put them in competitive tier. Again, just because blessings, right? The competitive tier is like, you won't go wrong by having these equipped. And if you're playing a Psyker, chances are you're not really relying on these melee weapons. You wouldn't be hurt by using one of these in your build.
Wouldn't.
It'll still have the good blessings you want. It'll have the solid damage to erase hordes. This one just gets that higher potential because the weapon special is that strike down that can actually blat a single target for a very high amount of damage. And outside of that, just solid blessings all around that carries them. On the other end of the spectrum, we've got some absolute garbage, the Ogryn Cleavers. These weapons ate shit hard when Ogryn got nerfed.
Yes.
The only reason these were useful was because the fast attack speed of the Cleavers was allowing you to stack bleeds really quickly. And so players were using it plus cleave, and they were cleaving up hordes and stuff. And then this one right here, you could yeah, it's the stabby one. I think it's called the Mark IV. This one just stabs enemies over and over, and then you can alternate that and punching, so you could stagger bosses. But both the stagger thing and
the bleed
and the bleed stacking both got nerfed. And these weapons, they don't cleave enemies. They deal 0 damage to armor. And this one has no cleave at all, even though it has better single target. But all of their damage potential, even at the time that these were used in people's builds, after the when was the weapon? When was these weapons buffed a little bit? It was in
the Arbites update, right?
Spring. I think I was seeing it mostly around the Arbites launch, so June 2025. Even at that time, players who knew were just using this weapon instead. We're just using Bully Club because the attack speed is as fast as these is, and it staggers more. So this was just a better option, even at the time. And now these are made even further useless because their heavy attacks are garbage and slow. If you're going for heavy attacks that are, slow like that, there's so many other better weapons on Ogryn. And they have no stagger potential, and they have no armor clear potential. They have no horde clear potential. Yeah, they every other weapon on the Ogryn class is better.
They're honestly just kind of
they
meh,
have to be the hardest possible. No, this one only just barely surviving because its DPS potential is a little bit higher. Other weapons that I'm going to take a shit on real quick. Let's shit on heavy swords. I'm going to put heavy swords in the light no category. There are some that are a little better than others. The Mark 6, I think, and the Mark 7, I think these are those two, in my opinion, are better than the Mark 9. The Mark 9 has lower base damage values with a easier to use moveset, but these have a nice arcing sweep. The problem here is that these weapons have no armor killing potential. Talking single-digit damage to Carapace armor. So the first Crusher you come against, you better be playing Zealot with this weapon, because if you are not, you have no way.
So to put this into perspective, right? If you're just hitting the a Crusher, right? A Crusher on I think it's Havoc 40 or something, have 12,000 HP or something like that. It's you basically I mean you're doing 8 damage or so, 6, 8 damage. So you can do the math yourself on that one, right? It would take you absolutely forever to kill a Crusher up there. Just forget it. Honestly.
Way to rend and actually kill that Crusher you're going to have to run for your team. Outside of that, these weapons don't have anything special. They're literally just a hunk of metal, and they don't give you any move speed advantage or anything like that, compared to, and I made a video talking about this earlier in the year, compare that to your dueling sword, right? It's still just a hunk of metal that swings back and forth, really basic moveset. However, these weapons can boost your crit chance like crazy. These weapons can make you super, super fast to move with. They can give you all sorts of beneficial effects, including rending armor, of course. These weapons are just if armor didn't exist, they still wouldn't be very good.
Oh.
Right? They still would not be very good.
They
need
honestly
something to differentiate them. Right now, it feels like these are the weapons that they started with in the game, and then they just made all other weapons from there. They're the most bland possible thing with no particular selling point. So I could understand using them for like a challenge run or something else, but like if you're going to use a bland weapon with sort of low to middling damage that struggles against armor, you should just use the Devil's Claw instead, because the Devil's Claw does that, plus it has the parry effect, which is actually pretty cool. I'm going to go ahead and with these
A
two
Devil
here,
Claw
I'm
is
gonna go
not
ahead
a
and
bad
put
weapon.
these two
I mean,
into the no tier. Just don't use these two. Bad moveset.
these two are not it. The last one, however, is honestly kind of busted.
Is what's holding these back. But our Devil's Claw Mark 1, I'm going to put it in the competitive tier. Very good moveset. Clears Horde just fine. And of course, the parry. The parry is what this weapon is all about, right? That's the only reason you really carry it. The best users of this weapon are the Zealot and the Hive Scum. The Zealot, of course, gets rending on his attacks, and so he can, or on his charge attacks, so he can actually use this to and still be able to kill crushers and stuff like that. Absolutely dunk on bosses, no problem.
Yeah.
The real winner with this weapon, try it on Hive Scum, no joke. Hive Scum blocking with this weapon with hyper violence can like two-piece a demon host. It's disgusting. And rampage and all that stuff, it adds the damage of the retaliation attack. Plus, hyper violence makes up for, like I said earlier, it makes up for the fact that the low base damage on this weapon is what normally like kind of doesn't allow it to do anything.
Yeah,
so you
it
can just cleave
makes
through
it kind
hordes,
of meh.
no problem here. Hyper violence and hyper lethality, or hyper critical, I mean, will just cull most stuff, no problem. And then you can just save your parries for bosses and take them apart in like 3 or 4 seconds. So yeah, this is a pretty cool weapon. If only there was a way to deal with armor on it. And I think that's where both the Zealot and the Hive Scum make do with it, is because the Hive Scum can just use a needle pistol and kill a crusher instead. You don't have to worry about it. But everybody else, it's a good weapon for blocking. Of course, remember that the block time, or the parry on this weapon, is 100%. If you just keep spamming parry, there's no open window where you can get hit. So it is super, super safe against bosses and demon hosts and whatnot. All right. Weapon that is not super safe. Chain Axe. I'll give
Dude, I am split on the Chain Axe because I love to play with it, but it's not particularly good. It's like it's okay. It got its niches. It can hit pretty hard, but there's just stuff that does the same thing as the Chain Axe, but faster. Like it's just not particularly good. I mean, it's just it's just, yeah.
Mark 12 Chain Axe an tier, and I'm gonna give the other one the no tier. The Mark 12 has the slightly better moveset, but here's what the problem with the Chain Axe is.
It's slow.
The Chain Axe is the parry, by the way, it does have okay carapace damage. The problem is like, okay, you have to like look and wait for a crusher to do one of the attacks that doesn't instantly kill you, right? You have to not be taking the overhead. You have to take the side swipe or the kick or something like that, and then parry that. And still, you'll probably end up having to hit him like 2 or 3 times. But yeah, it's not bad, right? It's not the worst in the game. It's no heavy sword. So this axe here, the Mark 12 Chain Axe, has okay movesets. The problem with these weapons is they have shifted so much power away from the like basic moveset into when you latch the chainsaw into something, it does this big and then it does a bunch of damage at the end. That worked in an early phase of the game, like back in the early eras of Darktide, when there just wasn't that much going on, and you had like 1 or 2 crushers standing stoically in the middle of the field, mean mugging, and you would go up to them and attack them as a unit. That worked back then. But now, when you get attacked by crushers, they're accompanied by 3 other crushers and like 5 whatever random other enemies. You don't have the space or the time to do the sawing animation that this thing requires. So finding the opening to actually use the saw effect of these weapons is just too difficult for most players. So
it's
they
way
need
too clunky
to be made less clunky in order to be effective. And the problem with that is that as you make them less clunky, you start to encroach on other weapons that are like, these weapons are designed to be clunky and slow and have big payoffs. unfortunately, as you'll see in Darktide, weapons that are clunky and slow seldom have enough payoff to outcompete the weapons that are super fast and can get the work done very quickly. So, we could have a weapon that does like this that can, one-shot a Crusher with a charged heavy attack, charged chain axe hit, but you could also just stab him 2 or 3 times in the head with the dueling sword in like 75% of that time, and you'd be able to be super mobile and defensive while you're doing it. So yeah, there's big trade-offs to consider there. Yeah, and this one just has a better moveset. Okay, let's start to put some stuff into these upper tiers again. I want to put a best in game up here. Let's, of course, just start out nice and easy and simple with the Dueling Sword Mark IV. This is the
Oh
Mark
yeah,
IV, right, with the red handle. And we'll
yeah,
go ahead
yeah.
and assign these other 2 to best in class. The Dueling Swords are just good weapons, man. I can't, there's no 2 bones about it.
No,
The
they're just beautiful weapons. They are what you call it. They're very good at one thing, and that's what makes them really, really good. I mean, they're really good at just taking out high priority targets and what do you call it? Stay evasive. I mean, that's 2 things, but it's primarily really, really good at just taking out high health targets because it does a crap load of damage. Um, and yeah, it's just a good weapon.
the Dueling Swords have incredibly competitive damage. They have really good move sets, super fast move speed, good dodge distance. They have a parry now instead of the bonus thrust.
Mm-hmm.
They have solid blessings, such as the ability to stack crit on you and the ability to boost your finesse damage, the ability to get uncanny strike, of course, and they are just all around beasts. The nerf to them did not hurt them very much at all. The Mark IV still holds the title as being the best of the 4. But yeah, even the quote-unquote bad Dueling Sword, the Mark V, it still has pretty dang competitive damages, and it has absurd dodge distances and move speeds. So you can just like fling yourself all across the map with this thing.
True,
Yeah,
yeah.
they're just very highly statted weapons. And this is what I was talking about. I was like, these weapons are just pieces of metal that are very highly statted and have high critical hit ratios and stuff like that. This is the sort of weapon that excels in Darktide because it's fast and it can get the damage done in the blink of an eye. These sort of weapons, like the chain axes and stuff, really are going to struggle with the tempo of the game, and these weapons keep up with that tempo and exceed it. And now that you can parry with it, you can like solo fucking Millennia with easy peasy, no problem, right? Just the twin comes at you and you just parry her off and just destroy her. Yeah, good, solid weapon. You're not going to hurt for bringing any of the marks, but definitely the Mark IV still remains the best. And also up in the upper echelons, Arbides stuff, Arbides shields, the shield, the stun baton, and the riot shield. Best in class, absolutely. These weapons are just absolute unga bunga terrors. This weapon takes Arbides, which is like a already nigh unkillable monster. He regenerates so much toughness per second. He is not able to be hurt by.
Yeah, the diabetes is absolutely absolute what you call it toughness printing monster. Like you get so much toughness on diabetes. And now you give him a shield, so he's. I mean, you can't really hit him with raise attacks now, so it's very defensive. Yeah.
Next to anything, and you add an extra layer of defense. So now he can't even get hurt by ranged attacks because you just block him. Now, if the horde gets overwhelming and you don't have enough stagger for him, just flashbang them all. Now they can't do anything for a second and a half, right? This stuff,
True, yeah.
like these 2 utilities, just being able to block ranged attacks and stagger enemies out of their animations are so big, and you get that on top of this weapon having some very solid damage throughput. Like, it doesn't have big wallop hits like some of the other weapons do, but its DPS is very competitive. You can just unga bunga light attack most
Mm.
stuff down. You can swap to some heavy attacks if you got a crusher or something like that. But yeah, the real potential here is just overwhelming enemies with staggering blows, and then dropping them to the ground and
Ugh.
pummeling them to death while they're down there. And you're going to be pretty much untouchable while you do it. Add to that the fact you can block
It'll
and
be
parry just
fine.
about anything, and that synergizes really well with the Arbites. It just takes him and makes him like an unstoppable sort of force. However, I will say that this weapon is outdone, of course, by the Mark III Shock Maul, because the DPS potential is higher here, and this one has better single target crushing, like, single attacks, right? You can.
So I just gotta say, I'm 2 for 2 now in weapons that goes up in the best in game. That's fun. I like that. I like that a lot. Actually, it's I mean, of course, the dueling sword. It's a beautiful weapon, and you know what? It deserves that spot so much. The shock ball here. There's a little bit of a risk reward factor in it, right? Because you're not bringing your shield, so you're a little bit more vulnerable to those range attacks. But you're also gonna just annihilate anything in front of you, right? So the reward is that you become more competent at killing. Um, the risk is that if you don't position yourself right, and you get shot by a lot of what you call it, ranged opponents, that might be the downfall, right? But other than that, yeah, I fully agree. It's just better because killing power and staggering, which this also does a lot, is a lot more valuable than having a shield, because you can always put something in between you and something to shoot you, or you can just shoot what's trying to shoot you. I mean, there's always an answer to that, right?
Can get rid of a single crusher or something like that way easier with this weapon. The problem we have with this guy is that you will sort of blow your initial load, like pummeling them a couple times, and then they'll get their poise back and they'll go to attack you again. This weapon, they're never recovering. You hit them one time, they're staggered. You hit them a second time, now you can stun them with the electric prod attack, which is like 1,000 damage, and then they're dead on the third attack. Because this weapon here is supremely overstated for the game, which is kind of why it makes it a best in game tier.
It's fast,
this weapon
it
is doing
hits
like
hard,
300
and I have a lot
damage on a light
stagger.
attack, and has this crazy attack speed, right? This absurd attack speed. A weapon that has this sort of attack speed has no business having the stagger and damage potentials this thing does. So yeah, I don't know how they were statting this, but this is just an unga bunga weapon. You can light attack the entire game and cleave through like 90% of it. You've also got confident strike in this thing. Nuts. So good stuff. Okay. Let's go ahead and do Hive Scum. Oh no, we do Ogren, since we did the shield. Ogren's best weapon now. It's the shield. It's the Battle Maul and Slab Shield.
Would you look at that? I'm free for free.
The Slab Shield is Ogren's best weapon. It's one of the best weapons in the game. It is the highest staggering weapon in the game. It has a base stagger of like 60, 65 stagger or something like that. Heavy attack spamming with this thing is a learned skill. Just like it was on Ironbreaker, Barden, and Vermintide. Just keep smashing them in the bridge of the nose at the edge of the shield, right? And enemies just can't get up. Add to that, of course, Skull Crusher. So once the enemies are staggered, they stay staggered, they take a bunch of extra damage. This weapon, since bleed stacks are now stacking to 4 stacks on every heavy attack, like it used to. This is just the new recrowned king of Ogren, and it really plays into everything that Ogren is good at. The enemies approach you because you got them taunted, and then you lay them the fuck out. And this will lay just about everything out. It has poor damage into bosses and stuff, but remember, your job is to crowd control. It's to
crowd control, things... make it easier for your team to kill it, and what you call it, just make your team a whole lot safer is what this weapon is all about. That's
soften up and take more damage. For anything that's non-boss, this thing is just laying it out on the floor, and it's going to bleed to death before it gets back up, because the damage that it's going to take is like so crazy high. And this weapon, of course, is super defensive. The shoves are massive, especially if you get that extra 250% shove power node that's somewhere in the tree in the middle. That thing can just like shove a whole army down, and you can block range shots. My recommendation, though, if you play with this, please don't be that Ogren who just like shield walls and goes on the defensive and never moves. You need to stay.
You're not helping your team if you're just holding your shield up all the time. It's like you have a shield, right? And you have the best stacker in the game. Go use it. Please go use it, right?
On the aggressive with this weapon. This is an aggressive weapon, so just keep that in mind. And other aggressive weapons, we've got the crowbar. Crowbar is in the competitive tier. The crowbar is the weakest of the Hive Scum weapons right now.
I agree.
The crowbar, a lot of its power relies on having the blessings active. It's got a good amount of power, like 37% power that you can get from killing elites. It gets more power from like doing pushes and stuff like that. And of course, it scales very well because you're Hive Scum, and Hive Scum can get a bunch of extra power from killing and from using Rampage and stuff like that. So it works on him. But even so, the weapon is clearly lagging behind its competitors. I think it's in a good spot, honestly, like personally, as the power level of the game is. But it's very clear. You can feel the difference, right? If you play a build that is not focused around melee, and you bring the bone saw,
it does absolutely nothing.
If you bring the crowbar, you're like, uh-oh, I can't kill anything. It doesn't have enough stagger on the blunt side, and the crowbar side doesn't do enough direct damage to kill anything fast enough. Versus the like this one, which just seems to like cut stuff down in 1 or 2 hits. So I would like the base stats of the thing to be a little bit higher.
I would like the base stacker of it to be higher. Because if you do run a melee build with it, you can absolutely annihilate stuff. Would I like to see the what you call it? Like when you flip it and use the alternative attack of it, like the piercing stuff. Would I like that to be a little bit higher carapace piercing? Yes. Yes, I would. Not by a lot, but just a bit.
You know, that's this weapon is good, but I find it hard to justify using it over anything else. It's funny though, and it's the best staggering weapon that the class has, I suppose. So there's that. And we should also talk about knife while we're on the case. The combat knives, best in class for the Mark III here, or best in game for the Mark VI. It's the better of the 2 marks because the heavy attack sweep on your heavy attack 1 is just really, really good. And then of course you got that push stab attack that jabs out like that. Super fast weapon, uncanny strike, riposte, all sorts of enabling for adding.
So I would say this knife here is dueling sword light, kinda. Dueling sword can do stuff that this knife do a little better, like a small bit better, and that's mostly because it's less complicated to learn the dueling sword, right? And it already has an insane damage potential. The combat knife is a little bit more finicky. It's a little bit more there's a higher learning curve to get good at the combat knife, and that's pretty much why I would put the dueling sword over the combat knife. But the combat knife is not bad by any stretch.
Bleeds to enemies, getting 8 stacks of bleed on crit or 4 stacks on that on your like body shot. Both of those are really, really powerful, synergize a ton of stuff. And of course, this weapon is crazy fast, right? You are untouchable with knife. It's a silly, silly weapon. You're running around enemies, you're poking them, you're bleeding them out, and yeah, like this is where I'm saying like speed is kind of king here. Like if the enemies can't catch you, what are they going to do to you? And this thing makes you so fast. It is the fastest moving weapon in the game. You know, just over flat land. If there's jumps and stuff involved, we have another one to talk about. But yeah, this weapon is pretty goated, kind of always has been, and it synergizes super well with crits. It produces its own bleeds, which are really powerful. Being able to like put dots on stuff for free is kind of OP. So yeah, use knife, guys, especially if you're like a core zealot or something. Definitely use some knives. Speaking of zealots, Relic Blade. Relic Blade is a best-in-class weapon. Relic Blade. That's not
Yes,
a Relic Blade.
I would.
That's a Relic Blade. The
would
Relic
agree.
Blade is a just absolute powerhouse. This thing is right in the sweet spot of what I want balance to be in Dark Tide. I think the Relic Blade is such a well-designed weapon.
Mm.
It has a upside, which is that it has strong, diverse attacks. It can deal with a variety of enemies. It's got like strike downs, it's got lunges, it's got single target, it's got multi-target. It has parries. It also has a downside of being relatively slow to move with. And
So basically, it has all the upsides of you can kill anything, right? Like you can really kill anything. And that's great and all. But with that power, also that needs to be a downside, and the downside, as you just said there, right, is the movement speed of it. It's not the fastest thing in the world. It's strong, and you can absolutely get rid of a horde and stuff like that. But you will run out of stamina if you are not careful. So there is kind of, I mean, that's why it's a good weapon. There's a skill ceiling on it. It's just a very well designed weapon, honestly.
skilled player with the Relic Blade can perform some absolutely tremendous feats. You can see a skilled player playing with the Relic Blade, right? But it isn't overpowered in doing so. They still have to endeavor to put the work in. But you can do some blat bosses. If you haven't seen the AA's Fat Mangus build, that is going to make the Thunderhammer Zealots extinct, right? You can blat captains instantly on Havoc 40. So what's the purpose of a Thunderhammer anymore if you've got a Relic Blade that can do that, and the Relic Blade can perform and do the like you don't like the Mark 10? Okay, well,
yeah, if the Relic Blade basically can do the same thing as the Thunderhammer, like one-shot bosses and stuff, that there's no real reason to take the Thunderhammer because the Relic Blade is just subjectively a better weapon. You have an easier time with hordes. You have an easier time with different armored enemies. I think you have a little bit more movement on it also. It's not as slow as the Thunderhammer. It's just, just generally speaking, it's just a better weapon with a pretty decent downside to it also. So that's why it's so well balanced in the game now, right? It's honestly, yeah, I can't say anything bad about any of the Relic Blades.
Either way, like the weapon is so well statted and it just does such solid damage potential that we can't, I can't put it anything less than best in class, right? It's got to be like just an absolute powerhouse of a weapon. So I think it's really, really good. It is not overpowered though. I want to drive that home. Like this weapon isn't OP. It's just really, really P.
Yeah, it's just really good. It's not overpowered. It's just really good.
Okay. So compare that to how I said the Relic Blade is like, it's strong, but it's not like OP strong. It's a far cry from the Force Greatsword, which the Force Greatsword, this is the one. I can't tell by the tiny little images, but I'm pretty certain. Like both these weapons are competitive in terms of like their damage output, but I think this is the one that I use because there's a little gold thing on there. This weapon, both these weapons have absurd damage potential. The Force Greatsword, for whatever reason, especially this one, which starts with a strike down and then goes into lunge. This weapon has some of the highest like crit ratios, has blessings that boost the crit, has blessings that boost your base power, has just stupid cleave, stupid base damage, makes you move fast with this weapon for some reason, because I guess the Psyker doesn't need to actually use strength to hold it. He's just like floating along. Yeah, these weapons are so comically like overstated in comparison to the relic blade. Like you see someone fighting
Yeah.
with the relic blade and they look like they're actually fighting. This weapon is just you go up to horde and you're just like, and then you just throw out the slash. Oh, I forgot to screenshot the power falchion. I'll grab it.
Yeah, I agree. It's they the blaze great swords, especially the one he's up there. I don't remember which one it is either. But yeah, it's you kill a couple of stuffs in a horde. You get your bar up so you can shoot your beam out of it, and the horde is just it's just gone. It's just evaporated. The horde. It is such a good weapon.
Thank you. And so like, yeah, the slash is kind of like where we go from like this weapon is kind of bonkers in stat wise, you're just absurd. This weapon would already be good if we didn't have the if we didn't have that slash to contend with. But then we get a weapon here that has like just a magic ability to erase an entire horde, and it's not a low damage ability either.
Oh no, it's pretty high.
Like enough to kill up to gunners. I think you might be able to one-shot rages with it if it happens to crit. So yeah,
Yeah.
really, really crazy stuff here. And we'll go ahead and add in. Thank you, helpful Chatterino. We'll add in our falchions here. But it shouldn't be too surprising to people. Falchions are in this tier. Let's go ahead and put them up here.
Yeah,
I just don't think...
I've played a little with the falchions. They don't really do anything special, and their attack patterns I don't like. They feel, in my humble opinion, they feel a little they feel awkward to use. But that might just be me. I don't know. They don't feel as good as they could do. I don't know.
Maybe they're a little more competitive. I just don't think that the falchion does anything particularly like strong in the game right now. The falchion is supposed to be a relic blade for the veteran, right? But what does the falchion do that is different than just running, I don't know, like tack axe or like knife or whatever else you could run on the or dueling sword, right? What's the selling point on the falchion? The selling point on the falchion is supposed to be that you don't have to activate it like the power sword is. But the power sword's whole thing with activating it is that you can like one-shot anything with that, especially on the Mark 6, right? This gets middling damage against everything when it's activated, and when it's not, it does even less middling damage, and it makes you slow, which is supposed to be one of the downsides, the offsets for the power that you're carrying around here. So yeah, these make you too slow. They're too clunky to play with. Compare that to the relic blades. I know some certain people hate the Mark 10, but the relic blades have good oomph, right? They can do something unique that other weapons on the class really can't. Power falchions aren't that. They're just kind of like glorified heavy swords. And we'll finish off here with our shivs. I gotta give both shivs somewhere best in class, right? But this one is the one that stands out. The Mark 1 or whatever this is called. The OG shiv. This thing is disgusting. So
it's really
when the
good.
game, when this launched, or when the shivs came out with the Hive Scum as a Hive Scum only weapon, when I first laid eyes on it, I looked at the blessings page, and the blessings, Uncanny Strike and Finesse or whatever, the one that gives you extra finesse when you dodge, are both omega nerfed on this weapon. Like they have 40% of their regular efficacy, and I was like, oh shit, they're trying this out as like a way to like nerf to like nerf those across the board.
Yeah, that's what I thought too in the beginning, but that's apparently not true. I mean, they haven't nerfed anything else, so it's only a thing for these weapons.
Yeah, I guess it's I'll give them competitive. You could unga bunga through a level with the other ones. That's true. They have high enough stats that you could like unga bunga, but this is the meat and potatoes. Learn this one, okay? Even lower, right? Just don't use this other one. Here you go. There you go. Just don't use it. What's the point? They're the same weapon, but this one has the moves you want. The reason I realized that the Uncanny Strike and stuff are nerfed on this weapon is not because they're trying to nerf it across the rest of the game. It's because this thing has such absurd damage ratios that if you didn't, it would become the Dueling Sword 2. Like, it's that stupid. This thing
Yeah.
does 5 to 6 times damage on a critical headshot. And this is a class that has like a 65 minimum percentage chance to crit. And the heavy attacks on this thing have this ridiculous reach. And of course, they're the literal ski poles of Darktide. So, oh shit, like, oh no, I'm like overextended in this engagement. Whatever will I do? Oh, I'll just literally fly 100 feet across the room because I'm
Yeah.
Hive Scum and
Yeah.
just re-engage from a different angle. Then you can throw these. So if you've got something that's being really annoying, you can throw a couple of daggers into them and cause them to expire from toxin-based stuff. Just an
So good.
absolutely
I love those.
disgusting weapon. It's hard to justify using anything else when you're playing melee Hive Scum because simply getting a crit with these plus hyper violence and the way that that scales together, like it multiplies the base damage that's added from the hyper violence, just ascends these things to the moon. These are literally one-shotting Carapace Ragers with light attacks. Those walk into it like it's a paper shredder, and they're just falling over light attacks to the face. Meanwhile, you're also able to take this and deal like upwards of 30k with a heavy attack. We just do like a hyper violence rampage stab on a minute, like a small enemy, and then just stab a boss in the next half second, and you just take half their health bar. Like stuff that used to be reserved for like the Thunder Hammer can now be done with one of the fastest attacking, fastest moving weapons in the game.
Yeah.
That also gets to
It's
throw itself
wild.
for for
They're
some reason.
so good.
Just comical, like just comical. And this is again going back to what I was saying. The best weapons in the game almost always will preserve the rule of just attacking super fast.
Super fast, yeah.
Extremely small openings for you to get attacked in retaliation. The ones that stand out are the ones that can stagger enemies, the ones that can stop enemies from attacking at all, or can end the fight before it even starts, right? Yeah. So there you go. I mean, this should come as no surprise, but if you are learning to play a class, if you're interested in playing a class, I recommend this set up here. These are the ones you'll probably definitely want to start with.
Yeah, like all the weapons in best in class. Definitely. I mean, yes. These are just really, really good weapons. And if you want to learn how to be, well, a little busted in the game, try out the best in game weapons there. They are, well, they're best in game for a reason, right? Because they do everything that all the other weapons do, plus more, right? And if you're if you're an absolute god and you want the ultimate challenge, just use the weapon down and no, just use some of those, right? But yeah,
And then look to move down. If you get bored of stuff up here, you can move down into this tier here and play around with it more. These are the ones that are fun and interesting to play with and are just off of that main power line. Down here, I'm starting to feel like we need some serious like juice in order to make them more relevant, unless you really love torture in your games. Either way, thank you guys very much for watching. I'll see you next.
yeah. I mean, probably check this one out also with the what do you call it? The ranged weapons, because I'm honestly more curious about all the ranged weapons and how they stack up in the current power meta. So
Well, hello there, my fine friends. Mr. E here, and today I'll be tackling quite
another
a daunting task
Mr. E
indeed,
video.
which is
Who would have
ranking
funked
all
it?
of the ranged weapons in Darktide, circa early 2026. Now, as compared to last time around in fall of 2025, this list will include the exclusive range weapons for the Hive Scum, and it will include discussions of how some of these weapons work with the new Hive Scum class. Plus,
Oh yeah.
of course, I've been constantly reevaluating and reconsidering some of my rankings from the past, so expect to see a few changes in here, but my overall goal is to provide you with a list of the best options should you choose to use your range weapon on any given class. With that being said, let's go ahead here and describe what the tiers are that I'm going to be using to rank and evaluate these classes, or sorry, these weapons today. Starting down at the bottom with quite a self-descriptive talent.
Yeah,
tier here.
only good on Hive
Good on
Scum.
Hive Scum only.
So Hivescom have some unique interactions with ranged weapons, mostly because of the talent that's called pickpocket. You can effectively have infinite ammo, right? So there are some weapons that has terrible ammo economy, but you can make it work on Hivescom, well, because it gets a lot of ammo back, right? So
The Hive Scum is a very unique class. As of time of posting, Hive Scum currently has literally infinite ammo with a talent called Pickpocket. However, if that at some point in the near future is nerfed, I might have to reevaluate a little bit. Nevertheless, he does still have a fine ability called Desperado, which can give him effectively infinite ammo. Both of those together can enable some weapons that otherwise would be limited by their ammo consumption to be quite good. And so a
hmm
few of those weapons are saved from being put into these lower tiers and instead will slot themselves into being quite solid picks on the Hive Scum. That is the purpose of this tier here because he operates so differently with range weapons than a lot of other classes do. Then we move up to useless trash. I think this is pretty self descriptive here. The kind of
I mean,
disappointing thing
yeah.
about range weapons is that for the vast majority of them, there is almost nothing that can act as a saving grace. You either have to have the damage and
Hmm.
use minimal or light resources, or you don't, right? If you are using too much ammo to produce too little results, you're just going to be a bad weapon. There's no two ways about it. So that is the ultimate test for most of these weapons is how much damage can they put on how many targets.
But basically, how efficient is the weapon? Um, uh, I mean, if the weapon, okay, so if you have a weapon with a really high DPS, right, but it has terrible ammo economy, it might still end up in useless trash because you're using way too much ammo for a single target, right? Even though you're killing that target really quick, it's still useless because you use your ammo economy is just terrible.
Do they have the capability of dealing with armored targets or multi-target or whatever it might be? And are they going to be ammo efficient? Are they going to be resource efficient in doing that? And then we have above that a fine waste of ammo. These weapons are what I would consider a little bit less than optimal. These are weapons that they might be okay to use, but I think there are just better contenders out there. They are usually lacking in damage throughput, damage
Yeah.
per second. You could just look to a very simple, sort of similar weapon and get a better result. And I
Mm.
want to do my best to steer you in those directions away from weapons
I mean, you could still use these weapons in a build. Just don't rely on them too hard, you know.
like this and definitely away from weapons in the useless trash tier. Now, notably, we have weapons in this list that do not use ammo. The staves would be what I'm talking about here, and you could, of course, have a staff in a tier like this. It would just not be a fine waste of ammo, it would be a fine waste of time in that sense.
Mm.
Could you be getting more damage done by spending a similar amount of peril, by spending a similar amount of time on a different staff? And the answer for a staff in this tier would be absolutely yes. There are ones
Yes.
that are better than anything down here. Foreshadowing, I suppose.
I need to say depending on builds because there are builds where you can stay at 100% peril and it doesn't really matter as long as there's enough elites and stuff that dies around you. Peril literally don't matter on certain builds, right? But that's very specific and it's very what to call it. Uh, I wouldn't say it's a standard way of playing the game. It's not for everybody. Um, is it fun to stay at 100% peril and be safe? Yes. Is there for some people too much micromanaging in it? Also, yes. Is it powerful? You probably guessed it. Yes. But yeah, for the most part, I agree. There are just staffs that are just flat out better off rip without any like specialized builds for them, right? So just keep that in mind when it comes to staffs. That there are definitely specialized builds for the different staffs that makes them uniquely powerful, because all the staffs are pretty powerful.
Now, once we reach this next tier, a fine backup, I want to make a clear declarative statement. Everything from a fine backup up on the tier list is considered a good weapon. Because this fine backup tier, what this means to me, and should mean to you by extension, is that these weapons are actually good. They are very good as
Mm.
a backup on the
Yeah, as a
class,
backup,
whatever
as
class
a
you might
special
have.
sniper.
So, for
Yeah.
example, you might have a weapon such as I'm not going to put it there necessarily, but like the bolt pistol, right? A bolt pistol is a fine backup weapon. It is not necessarily the weapon you would make your entire build around, but it is a
Mm.
solid enough weapon that it would end up being a good sidearm, especially if you're on a class that is not primarily a range focus. So like the RBDs, right? An RBD shotgun would be a
Yeah, it's a good weapon to pull out in a pinch, basically. So it's it's like, oh, there's a trapper over there. I need to get rid of that. Otherwise, it's probably gonna catch me, right? You whip that gun out, you shoot the trapper, you go back to melee. Happy days, right? That that is what I would say is a good backup.
great selection for this tier. Now, is there any better secondary for the RBDs than this weapon? Maybe not, right? The RBD shotguns are very, very strong, so they would definitely be
Mm.
some of the best options you can have in that class, and that's why I'm saying everything from here and up is really, really good. It's just that these are backup weapons. They are not your main bread and butter damage
Yeah.
dealers. They're not the focus of your build. Compare that to the next tier up, where we start to get really, really powerful. Build around this tier. These are the weapons that are build defining. They are either the primary source of dealing damage in their build, or
Mm.
they are such an essential source of dealing damage, dealing with certain types of targets, dealing with whole hordes or whatever it might be, that you very much consider this when you are making your build. A fine backup would be referring to a weapon that is just, hey, well, let's just slot it in the secondary slot. It's going to pull me out of I can kill trappers and stuff when I'm in a pinch. Build
Yeah, as I said
around this
before, yeah.
is like
Yeah.
easily 50% of your consideration is I really need to have this as my range weapon here. It is going to be pulling a lot of weight. And then finally, the who balance this tier. These weapons are just absurdly powerful in one way or another. Resource consumption is super low, damage is super high, the amount of targets and the type of targets that it can deal with is just not not a limiting factor at all. These weapons are needing some changes, to say the least, right? These weapons are seriously not exactly playing by the rules that everybody else is, and I think that overall, just thinking about these tiers when I'm cogitating on it right now before I start this list, because I do this kind of on the fly, I'm only thinking there's a few in this tier currently, and that to me says that we're in a relatively good balanced state. If most stuff could be in these tiers right here, we would be solid. The problem, I think, for the game is that a few are lingering up here, where we have these weapons that are super, super incredibly powerful compared to everything else, and they're like leagues ahead. But with that being said, I think we have everything we need to do to get started. Of course, there's one thing you should do before we get started here, and that's if you enjoy this sort of ranking, if you enjoy learning more about Darktide, hearing more about Darktide, hearing me talk about whatever it might be, you should subscribe. I'm almost
Yeah.
at Warhammer
Let's
40k
just
subscribers. In
pop
fact,
forward
I'm
a
the
little bit.
tiniest really
There we go.
any other weapon, and the only thing they have going for them in any way, shape, or form is that they are las weapons, and therefore the veteran shock trooper talent, which gives him free ammo on crit,
Mm.
can generate free ammo for you. However, if you are attempting to go for a sniping style veteran who's conserving a lot of ammo and is going for a las type weapon, you definitely have a better option in the Hellbore, which we'll get to in a little while. These, I think, would fit pretty squarely into the fine waste of ammo tier. They aren't absolutely garbage tier. You could use them in your backup slot, but
They're
yeah,
okay.
they are certainly way behind the power curve as it currently exists in the game. They serve a purpose, they are accurate, and they conserve ammo. They have a very, very large ammo capacity, so you aren't exactly sitting on a dead weapon in your secondary here, but they're getting very close to it, especially with the direction that Darktide is going, with having
Mm.
more and more enemies and more enemies that are immune to the paltry damage that they deal at this point. So yeah, unfortunate for them, but that is where they should live for now. Let's also talk about another set of 3 weapons, family of weapons here, the combat shotguns. Now, these combat shotguns got a very juicy buff back in the fall of 2025.
Yeah.
They got buffs to their direct damage, they got buffs to their ammo counts, and also to their movement speed. So these weapons are some of the fastest in the game now. You can just zip along. They have the what is called ninja move set or ninja movement speed bracket in the game's files, and so you can move at up to 0.8 additional sprint speed while these are equipped. This makes them
That's
a great
pretty
complement
quick.
to a lot of slow-moving weapons in the game. You know, for instance, your relic blades and your thunder hammers and that sort for Zealot. You can use this as your mobility weapon, and you can swap back to your melee when you get into the thick of things. In addition, they have fairly good ammo consumption. They honestly are quite efficient, and they have pretty decent critical multipliers as well. So it's not too hard at short to medium range to hit a headshot and deal a pretty considerable amount of damage. Of course, these things suck dick at like
I would
killing anything carapace armored, but
I would like to love him. I don't know, dude. I'm not a big fan of any of the combat shotguns.
for your general light elite usages, hey, you need to pop a single gunner. Maybe you need to knock off a trapper or a dog that's coming in. They're very, very good for that. And one of the things that also makes them a good pick as a fine backup here, which is where I'll put all 3 of these weapons, is they have
Yeah,
a high
yeah.
stagger potential, just as in
I wouldn't put them any higher than a fine backup. That's I just can't justify it at that you try to play a ranged build with any of these because they're just not good enough for it. They just isn't. Yeah.
real life. The shotgun is sort of favored as a close quarters defender weapon because it has high stopping power, meaning when you shoot the target, they might not die immediately, but they're not going to be able to shoot you back because the trapper, instead of being able to get the trapper shot off, is now staggered and it is knocked back out of their animation, and then you can finish them off with the second shot. The thing that's holding these weapons back is, of course, the loading animation takes forever, and there's tons of types of armor that they are just completely ineffectual against. They just take far too long and they don't deal enough damage per second. However, they are quick to equip in a pinch. They have that nice movement speed buff, and they can kill the light targets you need to kill if you are primarily a melee user. You could do worse than using these as a backup. If you want to know my favorite
That's
weapon is,
true.
I really like this one right here. I cannot remember if this is the Agrippina or whatever it's called, but this is the slug shooter. This has a weapon special. It shoots a like precision shot slug. That's quite nice. You could also go with the fire shotgun up here, which used to be called the Cantrail, but the fire is also quite good. But all 3 have their merits, and they roughly sort of standardized performance. I think they do just fine in that tier there. Let's do an Ogren weapon next. Let's do another family of 3. Let's talk about the heavy single stubbers. We have in order of caliber up here. Highest caliber goes first. I cannot remember. I think this is the Atlas is the heaviest caliber, and then maybe about 7,000 hours played. I'll remember the mark names of these things, but the heaviest caliber, the middlest of the bunch, and then we have the sort of DMR style, I'll say air quotes, low caliber option all the way over here on the right. Now, of these 3, this one here on the right has a different blessing set, as I remember, than the other 2 do. These 2 here have a lot of emphasis on headshots and critical hits, so you can actually get things like
So I don't know a lot about the like the heavy stoppers there. But I do know it's the only like real long ranged weapon the Ogren has, and I know that some of them are pretty decent. But yeah, I don't know, man.
a headhunter on here, or what's the one? I can't never remember the name of that blessing, where you aim down the sights and you gain stacking critical chance. So these are real sniper weapons. The problem being that the Ogren isn't exactly built for that sort of engagement.
Yeah, that
and
sort of
doesn't
savage.
have a
Yeah.
whole lot of synergy necessarily with it. The Ogren really lacks in his kit a weapon to quickly draw and dispatch threatening targets that are encroaching on him, like a trapper, something like that. And this weapon, or at least these two marks of this weapon, don't really fit that role. These are much more for sniping long distance targets, which can be fine, but again, I think you could rely on other teammates to do that a little bit better. The best one out of these three, in my approximation, is our friend, the light caliber heavy stubber here. That's a little bit of a contradictory statement, but this thing is a little bit faster to equip, and it has a high stagger potential as well as a pretty fast rate of fire. So you see a dog or a trapper coming in, you can whip this thing out in a relatively quick amount of time and then blast a couple rounds into them, and while they couldn't be killed but instantly by like a single headshot, but if you don't, you're definitely going to wing them and knock them back, knock them out of their animations, which is good as well. I'll rank all these things as a fine backup. I think they're good secondaries on the Ogren. Oops, that wasn't good there.
Yeah,
this one is definitely the
yeah,
best.
I can see that. Yeah,
Ogren needs that close range, quick defense, and that's pretty good for him. I don't think that they're the best options for the Ogren as a secondary. He's got fairly few good options in the secondary slot right now, but these things, they do okay, right? They can serve to pick off long range threatening targets, which not a lot of the Hogan's other weapons do really well at all. So they do have kind of a unique role there. So I think they're fine as backup weapons, but they don't really jump out as anything super special. Now, I want to talk about a weapon that I think is very special, and that is the Las pistol, the heavy Las pistol. There's two marks, and they are always separated on my tier list for some.
so apparently the heavy last pistols got a really big buff. I haven't played with them a lot, but apparently they should be really good. So I don't know.
For some reason. There we go. There's two marks, the Mark II and the Mark 10. The Mark II is the faster firing of the variant. The Mark 10 is the slower firing of the variant. The Mark II is an exceptional weapon. This is one, if not like the best generally available sidearm in the game. So Psychers, Veterans, and Zealots all have it. I don't believe Arbites has access to this, but those three classes can all use this as a sidearm, and I think it is just easily among their best, especially the Veteran, who can literally take this weapon and go to close to 100% critical chance, which means he can go infinite ammo. If you want, you can check out my infinite las pistol build. This thing has, honestly, kind of absurd damage ratios. I have no idea how it was balanced and in what way, shape, or form it was justified to have a 4 to 5x multiplier on critical headshot on a weapon with 0 recoil that has a sight and like infinite range. So yeah, this thing just absolutely slaps. It has insane boss DPS. It'll pop most non-carapace enemies die in 1 to 2 hits. It's just really, really good. And it happens to also share that movement speed bracket with your combat shotguns here, so you are super, super fast while using it. So fast, and
again,
the fact that it becomes hard to justify why you would ever use one of these shotguns.
Yeah, again, like movement speed is king. If you're really quick, I mean, how would the enemy hit you, right? It's like,
guns over this pistol, which has a much quicker reload time, much longer range, much better boss damage, much higher precision. It just stands above the heads and shoulders above every other sidearm in the game, and it is potential to be built around as well as with the veteran build. You can also use it. I use it for the sidearm in my melee psyker build. It's just perfect synergy with everything Scryer's Gaze typed. Yeah, crits go a mile on this thing. So absolutely disgusting, beautiful weapon. Now, in comparison, the Mark 10 here, the slower firing variant, it is a fine backup. However, the slower fire rate does not do it any services. The thing that you really want about this weapon is to really abuse the fact that faster fire rate is like disproportionately good, right? Firing fast, normally on weapons, firing really, really fast throws you off your target and means you miss rounds. This one, you fire so fast that it's okay if you miss rounds, because most of them with 0 recoil are landing somewhere on the target and they are hitting like an absolute truck. This one hits like a slightly larger truck, but not large enough of a truck to justify the massive, massive reduction in fire rate. That being said, though, still fine as a backup. I would just highly recommend you go for the 2 over the 10. Then let's talk a Psyker staff. Let's go ahead and talk about our electrokinetic staff. This is going to be a bit contentious here. Is I know many players like to.
So I feel like all the Psyker staffs is gonna be a little weird to rank. Again, it very much depends on what build you're using. It's because all of them are pretty good. I mean, of course, there's some of them that are better than others, but I don't know, man. I feel like they're tough to place.
Spam with this staff. I think I would be doing it a disservice, honestly, to say the staff is in a good position right now. This staff really only exists to spam left click with. It is a bit of a difficult decision for me to whether I want to place this in a fine backup or a fine waste of ammo. It is a weapon by my own tier list that I've sort of hung the albatross around my own neck here. It is a weapon that people make builds around. I
Mm.
just genuinely do not think it is a good weapon to make builds around
Yeah,
unless
no,
you're
I
a player who's
agree.
already stunting on the game as it is.
It is uh, it is too specific of a build uh build around, and it's really only good at one thing, um, which is a big shame because it's a really fun staff to play with. But if you make it as a backup weapon, there's just a lot of talents in the talent tree that makes it kind of meh. And if you build completely into it, yeah, it's gonna hit pretty decently hard. But it's not hitting as many targets as a lot of other staffs do. Uh, so I feel like that's sort of its downfall. It's like AoE potential, it's stun potential basically. It's not as good as other staffs.
This weapon, I suppose I will give it a fine backup tier here.
Mm.
It has really high left click, the little energy ball spammy damage. That's quite fine, right? That does very well for itself. The problem here is that the right click is not good for anything except for crowd controlling targets.
Yeah.
So it's pretty good at like disarming ragers or bulwarks or pushing back bursters, but outside of that, it does effectively it's effectively taking your potential DPS and cutting it in like fifths. You do
Yeah.
almost no damage, and you generate way too much peril with this thing on right click, which is a damn shame because this weapon is so fun
It's really
to
fun to
spam
play.
the lightning
Yeah.
with, and it's such a cool concept. But in practice, for whatever reason, this weapon generates twice or three times as much peril as I feel it should for the effective damage that it does, and the damage that it can do is limited to a small amount of targets. And in a game
Mm.
like Darktide, which over time is seeming to creep up and up and up in terms of the number of targets that are on the field, well, then you're obviously going to be biased towards weapons that can handle much more of that at a time. And so that's where he's starting to fall behind here. I really hope we can see some buffs to the right click, shocky thing of this year, as well as some additional psyker staves. That would be quite nice, wouldn't it? But
Yeah.
it's okay as a backup, right? It's if you're
Yeah.
going for a melee
I wouldn't
psyker,
put it
it's a
any
fine backup there.
I wouldn't put it anywhere else than a backup. I mean, there are, as I said, that there is a specific build for it. It is quite powerful, but it's also super specific, and it's only good at really one thing, which is a damn shame. But because it's a really fun weapon to play with.
It's ammo free. It is kind of like an ammo free version of our las pistol here, although I still think the las pistol is probably a little bit better, a lot bit better. But yeah, you could do worse than this weapon as a backup weapon, but I wouldn't recommend building around it at its current power state. Compare that to, though, the Void Strike Staff, which I'm going to put in fine waste of ammo. Now, obviously, it doesn't have ammo, but as I alluded to before,
Yeah,
sort of the ranking,
I agree. The Void
this is the
Strike.
weapon I was thinking of when I was talking about this being a waste of time to use. The Void Strike Staff used to be one of the more potentially DPS heavy staves in the Psyker's arsenal because it had a unintentional, turns out, synergy with one of the Psyker's talents where if you were getting headshots, it could enable the next shot to be a crit. And so you would aim at head level, charge a blast, and then go through it, and it would just crit everybody in a massive long line, annihilate them, and the critical hits on this thing do absurd damage, right? With Surge, which doubles the orbs you shoot, Really, really crazy stuff.
But that doesn't work anymore because the hitbox of it is too big, so it's gonna hit the body of the target instead of the head. And if you try to shoot over the head, well, it just does nothing.
That got nerfed, and of course, this weapon does not do very well with uh, really, really excessive amounts of enemies, and with
Hmm.
like carapace type enemies. It can still damage them, but only on crits, more or less. What has happened is effectively the geometry of this weapon is not very good for what it intends to do. If you are going to do a lot of damage, that's cool, but this thing takes a very long, long time. I'm always stunned when I use this weapon. Like, it
Yeah.
seems so good in concept, and then you pick it up, and then you try to charge a single shot, and you're like, Jesus Christ, am I ever going to be able to fire this stupid thing? Finally, you let
Yeah, it
off
takes
your
forever.
bolt, and it might nick a couple of enemies, but because enemies are swarming from all directions right now, yeah, the fact that you can obliterate enemies in a line is really not useful to the size of and the shape of hordes that you encounter at
Hmm.
this point in Darktide, right? When we were in an earlier era and we could just blast down hallways and that was like the entire horde, yeah, that was fine back then.
Yeah.
But now, especially as you're entering into Havoc mode and enemies are just so numerous that they're getting up on you, you really want a staff that can spam fast enough to clear those enemies before they get there, which I think is where the Electro Staff can actually compete like a little bit.
Yes. Either what do you call it? Just kill them outright, right? Or stagger everything. That's stagger. I can't overstate it too much. Enough rather. Stagger is king. If you can stagger everything, well, first of all, it can't hit you back, and it's just yeah.
Or you want stabs that have a huge AoE advantage, and that's where the last two stabs are going to pull
Mm,
away ahead of the rest of this crew. Is that they have a better geometrical shape for dealing with lots and lots of stuff.
yeah.
A circle is really good, and a cone is a long cone is even better. But we'll save those for a little bit later on here. So suffice to say, I think this staff is really behind in terms of its. I mean, it's very clearly behind in terms of its damage per second potential. It is just far too slow to cast for the effect that you get out of it, and yeah, that's where we're gonna have to put it. Now let's go back to some regular humanoid weapons with the Recon las guns, which are, as you might imagine, excellent weapons. They're going to go in the build around this tier.
Yeah.
These are some of the
All of them are
really,
good.
like assault rifle type weapons in the game that are able to just carry a build on classes. Veteran, it uses them the best, obviously, because of Shock Trooper and just infinite ammo effectively. But the Zealot and the Psyker can use them quite well as well because of crit chance and being good there. And yeah, I think that these are just super, super solid weapons. Now, in terms of talking about which one here is the best, we have sort of a choice for you to make. You have on the left the blue one. This is the fastest, fires about 20 rounds per second. On the right is the brown, the slowest. It fires about 8 rounds per second.
Oh,
And in the
didn't
middle
mean
is
to
the
do that.
Littlest
Sorry.
Twin, which fires somewhere in the range of like 10 or 11 rounds per second. Now, here's the thing to consider. On the right, with this brown one, with that slow fire rate, you can get high individual hits. So this will be for a more direct damage approach. You could take this one, and that means you're going to want to be landing headshots and getting buffs to your direct damage. So with this sort of mark, we want to put the blessings on the weapon that give it additional damage on hit, additional damage on kill, lean into crits and the raw damage of the weapon, because it can actually deal some quite considerable damage, way more damage than you can deal with individual shots of the infantry las gun, while also still firing at 8 rounds per second. On the other end of the spectrum, we have the super fast firing 20 round per second recon las gun. This thing, you really want to lean into the Infernus Blessing. The Infernus Blessing on crit stacks 4 stacks of fire up to 12 stacks. So all you have to do is fire at a target for a fraction of a second and have a decently high crit rate, and you're going to get 12 stacks of fire on them, which is enough to burn most all targets that are not like crushers or large ogre types to death. So gunners like machine gunners or dogs or trappers or whatever, you hit them with 3 shots, which are very, very low damage, like 60 or so damage, and then the fire, 12 stacks of fire, does the rest of the work. so you can just stop firing at that point. The weapons that use that Infernus Blessing, like this one, and also like our las pistol here, they go like up a tier in terms of usefulness
Yeah.
when you have the health bars mod installed, because you can see whether or not they have X number of stacks of fire on them. Once you see 3 stacks on like a trap or a dog, you know you can move on to another target. Now, my potential, or my choice for the best of these 3 is this one right here. I believe this is called the V1C. I can't remember, but it's the middle of the 2. It's
The
not
green
brown,
one.
it's not blue, it's whatever this color is.
Ah.
This one here has a middle fire rate and a middle damage, but it has enough fire rate to make use of that Infernus Blessing, which is the best blessing on the gun, and then also
Yeah, I
has
agree.
enough damage that it can effectively just, straight kill stuff with direct damage as well. So you get a good combination of the 2. And when you look at the ammo count of all 3 of these weapons and multiply it by their damage per shot, this one comes out ahead. We have about 60 to 65,000 on both of these 2, and this one is a little bit over 70,000. So you're picking up
Okay.
roughly like a 10-15% extra total damage that you can deal just without considering any additional blessings and stuff. So
That's
this
pretty
one
solid.
has extra utility there. So I have been using this one pretty loyally since I discovered that, and it's produced some serious results, so I highly recommend it. Now let's do RBDs, because RBDs has a couple of unique weapons here. We'll go ahead and place our lovely arbitrators, executioner, shotguns up here in the fine backup tier.
Yeah, backup.
Very,
Yeah.
very solid
I
weapons. I am
totally agree.
glad they added these to the game. They feel powerful. They are beautiful to behold, and I love the shell system here. Make certain you are using those additional shells. They are free. Every time you pick up a small ammo supply or ammo supply of any size, you will get all those shells back. So effectively, you get like 7 extra, or I think it's 6 extra special shells for every time you pick up even like a tiny piece of ammo, which is great because those shells are quite useful. You have the electric shells and you have the brittleness shells, depending on which mark you go for. Now, as to the eternal debate, do you want to go with the Mark III, which is sort of the snub nose, or do you want to go with the needle nose pliers version, the Mark 8, whatever it's called, the sniper version? I, for some time, was going with the sniper version because this thing has insane cross-map potential on gunners and stuff.
Yep.
Has a high damage on a pretty high minimum pellet count, which means that you can just barely nick a sniper from across the map and they're going to die from, lacerations from birdshot somehow. But then this weapon over here has the Mark III, the Street Sweeper style, has really crept back up at me. And I think that this is where I am sort of hanging my hat in terms of saying this one is slightly more powerful,
Fair.
or I prefer it more for what I like to do on the RBDs. This weapon being able to
Fair
pull it
enough.
out and just point in the general direction of, oh, I know there's a trapper behind this horde, and just pump the horde like.
I mean, there's an argument for both of them, right? So if you're building more into like the lone wolf playstyle and stuff like that, and you need a weapon that I mean you can rely on like damn near 100%, right? To take out a sniper that's very far away. Like I would take the one with the tighter spread. If you're building for just horde annihilation and just being what you call it, oppressive to, well, basically any enemy that isn't like too far away. The other one that shoots in a fan, I would say it's better. But yeah, it depends on your build and it depends on. I would put them basically neck and neck.
3 times, stacking up Fire Frenzy and Killing Floor, whatever it's called. Those buffs are very, very good, and they make this thing pop a lot of damage, has a high stagger potential, and having 6 shells instead of 4 is also good as well. The special ammo on this one, I think, is just better than the special ammo on the sniper. The sniper, can apply brittleness, but how often do you really need that on a class like RBDs who has a bunch of mace weapons, which kind of ignore armor to start with? The shock shells, on the other hand, can incapacitate enemies. So if you are a player who's able to multitask there, you can pull the shotgun out, quickly fire off a shock shell at a group of bulwarks and stuff, and disarm them, so you can deal with them, the old-fashioned way of punching them in the bridge of their nose until their brain is crushed.
True,
And,
true.
that is actually quite useful. So remember to use that on the shotgun. But both of them are very powerful. Both of them have good blessings, and they really serve a nice backup role, or a good solid secondary to whip out in a pinch for the RBDs. No complaints there. Ogryn weapons, though. Let's talk the Ogryn shotgun. I suppose I'll start with the Ogryn shotgun that's actually decent, which is the kickback.
Yeah, I like the kickback.
Once upon a time, the kickback was a very, very great weapon. And it was, in fact, such a powerful weapon that, it just kind of was assumed to be the use on Ogryns. But over time, enemies' health has creeped up, especially if you play on Havoc, where enemies' base healths are increased. And this weapon is just not very ammo efficient. I'm going to give it a fine waste of ammo.
Yeah, no, it's not. It's good
reason
at a
this
pinch.
weapon has problems in the current state is because this weapon, the kickback here, pretty much relies on killing in one shot. If you do not kill your target in one shot, not only have you effectively wasted a shot of ammo, because the second shot is going to be massively overkill, right? You'll take them to like 25% of their HP. Now your next shot is going to put them to negative 50 or 60%. Not only have you wasted that, but you've wasted a ton of time, because this thing is a one-shotter, so it takes an eternity to reload. And you don't actually get that many rounds. You're sitting at like 40-ish rounds total, I think like 45 rounds or so. And that is just not at all up to snuff with what some of the other weapons are currently
No, I
carrying.
agree.
Notably, the other single-shot weapon, the grenade launcher, doesn't have that many fewer rounds, and it shoots grenades instead. Or you can go with the grenade gauntlet, which has many more rounds, and each of its rounds are longer range and more impactful. Yeah, this weapon just kind of lives or dies on killing in one shot. And when we were back in an era of Darktide where the highest difficulty was Auric, and you also had the ability to combine this with a hugely boosted rending and flat damage from Point Blank Barrage, where it was 30 and 30, you could one-shot Crushers to the face with this. Now that has been nerfed, so that's not even good anymore. Yeah, this weapon is just behind the curve in terms of what you need to be.
Yeah,
able to do
it needs a bit of a
to
buff.
currently be useful, and it is also very wasteful of a precious resource, which is ammo. So I'm gonna have to put it down here and being a fine waste of ammo. It'll also waste a lot of your time too, because yeah, it's just not got a very good time to kill anymore. Sad, but true. Now I do want to kind of give a upbeat or a more positive note here, which is to say that hey, it isn't the worst Ogryn weapon, which is gonna go
No,
to
it's not.
the ignoble title, which will go to the Ripper guns here.
Yeah,
I make people mad every time I do this, but
the river guns
guns
are
just are not
terrible.
good. I'm sorry.
They're so
Ripper
bad.
guns have, for whatever reason, terrible accuracy, pretty terrible damage. Like the damage in these weapons is somehow behind combat shotguns.
Yeah.
They can't land pellets on targets. They even have a really, really slow time to like equip and brace for some reason. The Ogryn is in desperate need of a weapon that can be whipped out in a quick amount of time and used to dispatch a target. That's
Honestly, with the river guns, I can deal with the low accuracy if the damage were high. But it isn't. On any of them. And to make it even worse, some of them are burst fire, and that's just even... I hate that. I really hate that.
That's where the kickback here comes in clutch, right? You can pull it out in a pinch, and you will kill that trapper. You're gonna pulverize that trapper. Then you're gonna have to reload for 5 seconds, but you'll kill that trapper. This weapon, you might wing the trapper a couple times, but chances are she'll get like a hit and then like roll away, and you'll have to do it again. And it's just so annoying and so encumbering to pull these stupid Ripper guns out and never seem to land a shot on the target. I have no idea why a gun like this is as inaccurate as it is, does as little damage as it does on the Ogryn of all classes. This weapon should have the damage profile and the capabilities of the Street Sweeper
Yes.
RBD's shotgun and just be able
I
to
agree.
and wipe out a horde, right? I don't care what they need to do to compensate it for that, but yeah, it really just doesn't have any use at all right now.
I mean, they could just bump up the damage, bump up the penetration of it, keep the what you call it, the accuracy of it, like the recoil, because it is just a big honking automatic shotgun that shoots, I don't know, monster can size shotgun shells, right? So it's gotta have a bit of recoil, especially if you're shooting it full auto, right? Um, but yeah, I've totally just buffed the damage of it, buffed the penetration of it, and it'll be fine.
Outside of, I guess it's got the can opener blessing, and that's kind of funny sometimes. But yeah, these weapons just feel terrible to use. They're super encumbering, they're super slow, they're super inaccurate, the damage is piss poor, and yeah, I hate using them. Every time I pick one up on the Ogren, because I'll get like a good drop and I'm leveling a character, just having fun, and I am just incredibly disappointed when I go to use it. So if you're an Ogre and you're using this, please, yeah, consider something else.
Hmm.
And don't make that thing that you also consider the twin link stubber, because we're putting this one down there too. Sorry, Ogrins. Jesus Christ. I mean, the Ogren, we all know, the Ogren isn't doing great for diversity weapons.
The twin link stoppers, all of them uses too much ammo to kill an enemy, and you just don't have enough ammo in them. Like they're just too inefficient. Uh, yeah, can they pump out a decent amount of damage? Sure. Are you gonna be out of ammo in like, I don't know, a minute? Also, yes.
Right now, but I just really wanted to make a point here that both of these weapons have terrible effective DPS, especially for the ammo they consume. This one can't hit a target to save its life, and has like such a scattered shot of the effective damage on it per any given target is very minimal. This one here does 0 effective damage and takes forever to equip, forever to reload. Pretty much the problem with the twin link stubber, twin link heavy stubber, is
okay. So I was
weapon
wrong now. I mean, I don't really play Ogren that often, not since the well, that sadly the nerf of it, right? But yeah, I just don't remember. I don't remember the last time I used a ripper gun, because not a ripper gun, but a twin link stopper, because they're just not good.
was like simpatico with the old Ogren prior to the Ogren rework in March or so of 2025. That rework nerfed Point Blank Barrage and changed the burst limiter override keystone in such a way that it kind of removed all possible synergies that existed before with this weapon. Because previously, burst limiter override had synergies that really only this twin link stubber weapon, especially the fastest firing, the Atlas, which is this one I want to say, could access. And that made it a good choice for that specific one weapon. And then we had Point Blank Barrage, which had the fire stacking up to 32 stacks of fire, which was insane. And again, only this weapon of all of the Ogren's weapons could feasibly access that 32 fire stack power.
Yeah.
And so it was a pretty decent choice. You can melt bosses with it, and you would do okay against hordes and other stuff too. Granted, this weapon has always been god-awfully ammo hungry. If you can still run with this weapon, right? You will do okay damage range-wise, but you will consume double the ammo of anybody else in your team who's doing a comparable amount of damage. And if you wanted to, say for instance, run as a veteran, doing a comparable amount of damage with a recon las gun, you'll use half of that half of the amount of ammo. So these weapons end up using 4x the ammo consumption of just a better way to play with a recon las gun. So if you want to go like minigun, blasting into hordes, melting bosses, you just go recon las gun these days, and you are going to be so much more ammo efficient and easy to use than these things are. Yeah, so these things just got completely fucked by the Ogren changes, and broke all the synergies, and that kind of revealed how at their base The only thing they had going was that fact that they had perfect synergies with the way the talent tree was set up before, and now they just seriously need some reworks. It breaks my heart that like these weapons. This is supposed to be a massive fuck off shotgun. This is supposed to be like literally ripping a turret off of like like a vehicle and firing at enemies, and both of them feel weaker than just about.
I have one word for them. They've anemic. They've they do nothing. Like literally nothing.
Any other weapon on this list when they're fired at enemies. Like literally, I feel like the braced auto gun does more damage per second than the twin link stubber does right now.
I think it does, yeah.
Oh, braced auto guns, by the way. Yeah, they're pretty bad. In fact, I think they're pretty useless trash right now, which is hard to say because I'm a big braced auto gun fan.
I like them
like
too.
this weapon. I want it to be good. I've made a number of builds around it. I made a build for veteran on it back in the day. I made a build for RBD's ACAB build, and I even tinkered with it on the Hive Scum because the Hive Scum was the last refuge for this weapon, I believe. Right? It's kind of like the only class that could really feasibly make it good, and that's because this weapon consumes a lot of ammo in order to do what it does. The problem is that it just doesn't produce any results anymore. For some reason, this weapon has almost no critical ratio, meaning like, 0.3 critical ratio. You're only getting 30% more damage when you get a crit. So there's no synergy with crits on this weapon, which means Hive Scum and Veteran get no synergies with it with any of their crits.
No real bonuses, yeah, no.
It has really, really poor aim. Like if you're shooting this thing unbraced, you're not hitting fuck. And when you do brace, you move at an absolute.
I mean, when you do brace it, granted, yes, you're gonna hit what you're aiming at, right? But you don't move as you just sit there, right? You're just stuck there. And as we already have covered, movement is king in this game, right? So yeah, that
snail's pace, which is just so stupid that I don't understand why you have to move that much slower when you brace at all. So yeah, the only way this weapon can be sort of salvaged, the way that I salvage it on our BDs is by putting it with Castigator stance so we can move at full speed while bracing, and it's okay there, I guess. I think the Hive Scum's infinite ammo and other various damage buffs while he's wielding range would offset this, but the throughput on the damage, the damage type that you're dealing there is just so poor. It has no synergy with headshots, and it has no real capacity to deal headshots because the spread is so large, and you can't be mobile while you use it. So having infinite ammo just puts you nowhere. And for the Hive Scum particularly, it's outclassed in every single respect by the infantry auto gun, which just gets way, way, way better mileage on the class. So what could they do for this weapon in order to like save it from where it's at? If this weapon is supposed to be like, a braced auto gun, why aren't we running and gunning with this thing? When you see like Rambo in the movies and he's got a braced auto gun underneath his.
Yeah, that let us aim in with it. Let us brace it and keep moving at the same rate of speed, like as we did. Yeah, sure. Bump up the I don't know, give it a 2x crit multiplier, and especially for the heavy ones, give it a larger capacity to do damage to carapace. That'll be phenomenal. It'll be so good.
His armpit and he's firing it at the Ruskies, or I don't know. I haven't watched Rambo in forever or ever. I don't know. But when he's firing this at enemies, he's running around like a lunatic and throwing grenades with his other hand and shit like that. This weapon, for whatever reason, requires you to move at the speed that like encamped sniper would to get no accuracy and no damage buffs out of it. And does middling damage to boot. The only thing this weapon has going for it is high stagger potential, which can stagger targets out of like what they're doing. But there's better weapons for that.
Yeah,
that we'll talk about
which is
so yeah.
Which is nice that it has higher stagger capacity, but it doesn't matter if it can't kill it. So there's that to consider it, right?
Really, really useless right now. If you have a build with this in there, throw an infantry autogun instead. You'll deal more damage with better results. GG. I suppose I should talk about infantry autoguns since I've mentioned them by name a few times there, and feel like it's only fair to give them their shout out here. This is the weapon that I was thinking of when I created this tier of good on Hive Scum only. Specifically, the one that's very, very good is this Vrax Mark V right here. I think it's called Vrax now. It used to be called the Columnus Mark V. This weapon has always, well, way back in the day, was one of the highest performing DPS weapons in Darktide. The problem nowadays is the ammo consumption is insane on these things, right?
It's too high.
Eat through your ammo supply in no time. The only real class that would effectively use a weapon like this would be the Veteran, and the Veteran is going to get better mileage out of the Recon Lasguns because of Shock Trooper. And ammo, especially on Havoc difficulties, is a precious, precious resource. You just can't have guns like this that don't deal with ranged or with armored targets and also chew through ammo. You need to kind of pick one or the other. So that's where this weapon falls down. However, the Hive Scum, of course, can swoop in and save it from a grisly fate by saying, hey, no problem, fam, I got you. Here's infinite ammo. And that takes this weapon and turns it up to some pretty crazy, crazy numbers. It makes it into an absolute bullet hose. If you haven't seen my minigun Hive Scum build, the Vrax Mark V, just hip firing with this thing is quite comical. And you can just repeatedly boost your fire rate using stim supply and the speed stims. It gets insane returns on headshots. It gets insane returns on critical hits. This thing does 3 to 4x on critical hits and headshots.
Yeah.
So yeah, very, very high synergy with the high critical hit.
It's a really, really solid weapon.
Pretty much every class that might use this weapon at this point, like crits are so abundant on every human class at this point. Only Ogryn kind of can't crit. And yeah, so it's very, very good damage potential-wise there, and then the Hive Scum is able to boost it to relevance by providing it infinite ammo. So I think this thing, even if they nerfed Pickpocket or something, would be a very feasible choice on Desperado Scum. And it's also, again, a super fast weapon. I think it is up to a 0.6 move speed, so you can zip around the map with high mobility while this is going on, and it has a good set of blessings like Dum Dum that can stack damage while you're hitting targets or stack damage from killing targets. Just very, very good all around, and check it out on Hive Scum if you haven't. I love the Vrax the most, and then the Columnus is my second favorite there. Okay, from here, I suppose we should address some big power weapons, like the actual power weapons of the game. Let's talk the bolters. We have two marks for the bolter. We have the Spearhead Bolt Gun Regular Edition, and then the AoE sort of boom, boom, boom blasting edition. Both of these are going to be built around this tier, and I don't mean this in the sense that you should be making this weapon sort of your main weapon in a build. You know, Veteran can probably do like some marksman's focus, snipey style stuff.
Can probably do something there, yeah.
Your stance if you really, really wanted to, but I think mostly what I mean by that is this weapon is such a powerful secondary to pull out. It solves situations that you would otherwise not have a solution for built into your build by pulling it out. You say, oh, I want this boss absolutely destroyed. And then you whip out your the regular version here. I forget what it's called, the Mark III or whatever it is.
At that one.
You whip this gun out, and then you go boom, 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 boom in the boss's head, and then they just die, right? So on like Arbites, Arbites has an amazing synergy with this, right? You can prime the target with Execution Order. You can have the Monster Hunter buff that's at the bottom of Execution Order tree, and then you can just go and annihilate them. This thing does tons of damage on Arbites. It does, you know, crazy damage on most classes because this thing has immense direct damage, good armor penetration. This can be your weapon to counter Crusher.
It's just a really solid weapon, honestly.
On the other hand, we have its cousin, the AoE Explodey round version, Mark IIB or something. This thing is also very, very powerful. It still has enough direct damage that it can one-shot gunners and shotgunners if you hit them in the head or torso. And additionally, it can be used to disrupt or just most times outright pulp hordes. So this can be your horde countering weapon in addition to being sniping. The problem with this weapon is ammo count. The overall ammo count is low at about 115 total for this one, and then I think this is like 100 or so. But I think that's perfectly balanced, right? This is what I've always said is this is one of, if not the most balanced range weapon in the game. It is super powerful, and it has counters to really dangerous armored enemies.
It has counters to its own power basically, and that would be the ammo count of it. So it's basically pull it out when you need it. When you don't, just let it be, right? And also kind of hope and pray that your teammates are taking out a majority of the specials, right? Because it takes forever to equip that gun. Even though they sped up the animation quite a bit in a patch some time ago.
Enemies. However, it does have downsides. It is an incredibly long reload time. It is slow to move with. It's slow to equip,
Yeah.
and it has a low ammo count. But it makes up for that in power. And so
Yeah.
this is a great weapon. It's easily one of the best secondaries for an RBDs to have. It's easily one of the best secondaries for a Zealot to have. And yeah, so I can't. And you could also run primary with it on veteran. I've been seeing a lot more of that lately. Although I think there's obviously a slightly better choice if you're just going to go primary blasting for armor penetration on that class. But we'll get to that in a second. And so speaking of the bolt gun and being on Zealot, I want to talk about another weapon that is definitely built around this tier that specifically belongs to the Zealot, and that is the Pregatus Flamer. This Flamer is
Really
such a
strong.
workhorse. One of the things that is just really undervalued about the Zealot is he has access to this weapon. Fire and flame stacks are incredibly destructive. They take a long time to fall off. They do a lot of damage per tick, and the direct damage of this weapon is also very, very appreciable. So when you turn this weapon on enemies and you just unload a whole canister of gas, the effective damage that you can deal with this is kind of crazy. Like, it will wipe out anything short of crushers.
Yeah.
Are you a lyricist wanting to hear how your songs sound?
Oh, hi.
Eureka V8. You can
Yay.
lyrics to life.
Commercial thing. Skip that.
No problem. And that is what makes this weapon so powerful as a secondary on the Zealot. If you're going for the throwing knives on the Zealot, meaning you can pick off your specialists and annoying shit like
Oh yeah, then this is also what I like meant with like build stuff. As he says, if you're going with the throwing knives on the Zealot, you still have ranged options to pick off specials, right? Which means that you can take the flamer, which the flamer don't have the longest range in the world, right? And be good. Like you can just melt stuff. It's like, oh, there's a trapper, throwing knife in his face. There's a flamer over there, throwing knife that dude. Yeah.
like that at range without having to devote your secondary weapon to that goal. You can use this flamer and you can contribute massively to your team. Whenever you see a horde coming from a direction, whip this thing out and you completely take out that horde. You say bye-bye, horde. It's gone. The thing that I always see Zealots doing with this, though, is they're just firing it at stuff that would be dead either way. Everybody is already fighting the enemies that are directly in front of us. You've already got a whole team that's out there meleeing it, and you've got a psyker who's already using their flame staff on it. That's not when you need to use this weapon. When you should use this weapon is when you have a horde that has gotten summoned in, you've got people fighting on the front, and you turn around and you look and there's a horde encroaching on the back. You can single-handedly wipe this out with this. And the best thing about this weapon is that one tank of gas is pretty much all you need in that pinch. Then you can reload and be ready to go next time. And if you have a veteran on the team, you can be slowly
regaining
over time and building back up so that you pretty much always have this ready to go when you need to. So yeah, it just serves such a unique role. It does such an immense amount of damage and is so efficiently, really. And it really scales super well with the way that Darktide is trending, with more and more density, more and more enemies spamming everywhere, just nukes everything. And yeah, you should definitely be running this as your secondary, unless you are a Chorus Zealot, I would say, because Chorus Zealots kind of need to spend all their time like attacking, getting their cooldown down. This
true.
is an immensely useful secondary on the Zealot.
Also, I don't know if the interaction works still where you charge, and if you don't melee attack anything and you have your ranged weapon out, you get a crit. You just crit everything for the duration of the buff of the charge. I don't know if that's still a thing, because it were a thing and it was super powerful.
Zealot specifically build around it. Then we gotta talk some general stuff. Let's go back to revolvers. I love the revolvers, guys. The revolvers are easily one of my favorite weapons in the game.
Yeah.
We've got the
So good.
Zerona long shot, sort of snipey style revolver, and we've got the Agrippina, I think, the quick draw fan the hammer revolver. Both of them I'm gonna put in the fine backup tier. Now, I
Yes.
know you can certainly build around your sniping revolver there. You can go for
Uh,
a big iron veteran or whatever it might.
I don't disagree with this at all. And I would go as far as saying it's the best sidearm in the game. And it allows you to go hard into like a melee build because you reliably can fall back on this weapon to take out a special target or an important target, right? Um, so this weapon alone allows you to just specialize hard into melee or whatever you want to specialize hard into, right? Because when you pull these revolvers out and you want to take out a target, it's gonna do its job, and it's gonna do its job really well.
Might be and deal a lot of damage. However, I just don't think that the ammo supply is where it needs to be to do this sword build. These are absolutely excellent sidearms, right? They are perfect for the enterprising zealot or arbites or whatever it is because they are pinpoint precise, especially the aim down sights one. They have enough stopping power to kill anything instantly. You know, a head or body shot usually kills like most light targets, and they do have the hand cannon for 60% rending on guaranteed crit blessing. So you can just guarantee, or sorry, on crit blessing, and then you can also guarantee crits with the I'm not gonna remember it again, but yeah, the ability to
Surgical.
aim down sights in order to stack your
It,
chance to
that
crit.
that
And then
blessing
you
is called
snap off a shot at
surgical.
a crusher, and you take like easily 75% of their HP. So this weapon does have counters to just about everything in the game. It can one-shot most targets with the headshot, which makes it very efficient, and it's hyper accurate. Like one of the best snipers in the game. Probably only the bolt gun really competes in terms of sniping. I guess the Hellbore is fine, but yeah, it's way faster to equip than the Hellbores are. So yeah, really, really solid sidearm, very fast to equip. Just make certain you got it reloaded when you need to have it reloaded. Snap off a shot. You know, they've already buffed the thing's ammo consumption or ammo capacity one time and the damage very, very considerably. So I think it's in a fine place, honestly.
It's
I
in
don't think
a
the
really
revolver
good
needs to be
place.
more powerful. It's a revolver. It's not supposed to be a power weapon in the game. So yeah, we're looking at a fine backup tier here. Then we are going to talk about the Hellbores, since I mentioned them. I whispered their name, and they've been summoned into existence. Now, I could be contentious here, guys. I could be, I could be problematic and make people really, really mad at me. You know, Hellbore mains are out there. They're real. There's dozens of us. The Hellbore is such a tricky weapon. It really doesn't play well.
So for me, the Hellbore guns are either hit or miss. It's like either you're really good at them or you're not. It's like, and people who are really good with the Hellbore rifles, well, they wreck every armor target. You will never see an armored target in front of you the entire game. Or at least it feels like that, right? Um, but people who suck with them will hit absolutely nothing and contribute nothing to the team. So it is a really good weapon, but you need to be good at it.
To the game of Darktide, really. You know, with the swarming enemies and just being so many enemies. However, I cannot deny that it is a strong, strong weapon, right? This weapon has absurd damage potential if you can land headshots. If. Massive if.
Yep, that's what I was
So
saying
if you
there.
are
Yeah.
goated, right? If you can land shots, you're consuming effectively no ammo. You effectively have an infinite ammo supply with this weapon, especially if you're on veteran, which is probably the best class to use it. And it can one or two piece crushers, one piece just about everything else, chunk bosses. It's just a matter of landing those shots and watching your spacing in such a way that you can keep away from enemies while you're doing that. And that is a difficult task, but it is feasible. I don't think this is a backup weapon. I also don't think this weapon is a waste of ammo, and it's definitely not useless trash. But I
No.
will put it in the build around this tier with a heavy caveat that you have to be goated.
Yeah,
Now,
you have to
which
be
mark you
good.
use is
Yeah.
up to personal preference. I prefer the heaviest firing mark when I play. You know, the one that takes the longest to charge. I cannot with these tiny little things. I think it might be this one. With these tiny little icons, I can't tell the difference. But the slowest firing, heaviest hitting mark is my preferred one when I try to play. But I'm not particularly good with it. But even so, I can still see the potential for it. If you have a team who can play sufficiently to defend you, or you are goaded to the point where you can defend yourself, yeah, quite good. And of course, the bayonet is, for whatever reason, very effective against like captain shields and stuff like that. So you can also contribute in terms of like killing captains with this weapon too. So I'll give it build around this tier, but again, with the caveat, you must have the skills to pay the bills. If you
Yeah.
cannot aim, if you suck, if you're a console player or whatever, don't. Just don't. Just go recon last gun, guys. Okay. I think that should make people plenty happy that yeah, it landed up there. But I mean, I really can't deny the potential damage.
I mean, I
that's there.
agree. Either it's complete useless trash, but that has nothing to do with the gun. That has everything to do with the player, right? Or it's in build around. I mean, it's either or. Because I won't say it's in who balanced this, because in who balanced this, it needs to be, well, first of all, easy to use and powerful. This is just powerful in the right hands. So it's either useless or just really good.
It's just a matter of actually hitting your shots. Now, where the potential damage isn't is down here with these pieces of crap. I was like optimistic about these weapons coming off of the fall update last year when they got that buff, but my optimism quickly faded. These weapons just do not have a reason to exist currently in Darktide. There are far too many enemies that fundamentally do not give a fuck about a bullet being shot at them. Like, they're crushers, plasma gunners, maulers, bulwarks. All of those enemies are more or less invulnerable to this gun in particular. So if any of those are out there, you're fucked. If you, for some reason, happen to know that every single enemy in the game is going to be just a regular-ass gunner, sure, you'll be okay with it, but why would you choose this weapon when anything else exists?
Yeah, when
Because
anything else
you
exists.
are going with a bullet-style weapon, which means if you're playing veteran or something, you're not getting the benefit of shock trooper. The ability to aim and hit targets is severely hampered by the fact this thing has a no sights. They claim to have reduced the recoil, but the recoil still sucks donkey dick. Like, it's really, really bad. And
It's not
the
good. It's
overall
not
damage
great.
throughput when you're like just shooting, and even if you hit the target every single time, is super low. Like, even just hitting body shots over and over again is like no damage. If you hit headshots repeatedly, it's pretty much no damage. Just take for a second, like, go into a game, build a veteran with, like, you know, marksman's focus and shout or something like that, and go into a game and then just try your best, try your absolute hardest and to play with one of these weapons and see what your score looks like at the end. Play like Oric or something so you don't get fucked by metal. Then go back in and just play that same exact game with the heavy las pistol Mark II. You will deal like 8x damage because you can literally just spam this weapon. You can just spam it at general head level. You'll hit headshots. You'll instantly evaporate that enemy's entire health bar. These things you cannot spam. You have to aim meticulously and precisely, and even then you'll miss shots because the recoil is out of control. It's out of this world. You can't see what you're shooting at because the sights are so bad. Yeah, just completely irrelevant weapons, which is really sad.
Garbo
Because
doo-doo,
it's quite
yeah.
clear to see that all of these weapons here, braced autogun, infantry autogun, vigilant autogun, and infantry lasgun to a lesser extent, all of these weapons, a lot of thought and intent went into designing them. But they are Darktide 1.0 guns. They are guns that were balanced for a version of the game where, you know, like tactical shooting and middling damage was considered like status quo, where that's the best thing a gun should be doing is, like, you know, sniping off a couple of rounds and killing individual poxwalkers and stuff like that. Unfortunately, that is not the bent that Darktide's sort of history has taken, but nor really was it at the time, because even at the time of the game being introduced, we had clear dominant competitors that made this gun these guns completely irrelevant.
Yeah.
Let's talk about one right now. The plasma gun goes clearly in the who balance this tier. The plasma gun is a gun that I don't think has ever been balanced. Like it has ever even been attempted to be balanced. As I understand, or the story goes, it's like maybe some lore or old wives' tale about the plasma gun was that when this weapon was designed, the people who put the weapon together and designed it picked a really, really high number for the damage and picked a really, really high number for the cleave. And then that has stayed. That has just been the damage and the cleave.
Yeah.
Because this weapon has thousands of damage, like literally thousands of damage in the tooltip. Like that's just on light attacks, right? Like that's like 900 something on a light attack. And then like, what is it, like 2,000 whatever on a charge? Like it's insane. And the impact, or it's not the impact, the cleave is literally 100 on this weapon. So it goes through
Yeah.
everything, including walls, including bulwark shields. They had for a while sort of some drafted plans to nerf that, or we got a leak of that, and they pulled back from that. So this weapon is still capable of evaporating everything in a big ass long line. It is perfectly accurate. It just has a little bit of delay on the fire, but like, you know,
It's such a
this
powerful weapon.
doesn't have recoil, so to speak, so you're not going to be missing your target like that. And if you hit the target in the chest, this thing's projectile is roughly the size of like a sapling tree. Like it's probably like 6 inches diameter at least. So you just kind of have to aim in the vague area of like the upper chest headshot box region, and they're dead. They're just gone. And
Yeah.
this weapon is, of course, one of the most dominant at upper levels of play because of that efficiency, because of the ability to like 1 or 2 shots kill stuff. But I mean, I've been re-leveling characters recently and like playing at lower levels, and the second you see a veteran playing with this gun, you're like, oh Jesus, like I'm not even gonna get to play. Because on difficulties of malice and heresy, the health values are so low on enemies that this is just wiping them out with one body shot,
It's just-
regardless.
yeah.
You just point in the general direction of enemies and they all die. It's not even like headshot necessitating. So yeah, this weapon is completely overtuned. The alleged downsides of this weapon are that you can like overheat, but no one is overheating because no one's doing anything but spamming light attacks, because that's all you have to do. And it's supposed to have a long reload time, but of course you can just circumvent that by playing weapon specialist with the veteran and never reload, or you can just reload.
True.
Because you literally have one magazine. There's one backup magazine in this gun, so it takes 34 shots to empty your first mag. You reload, it takes I think 7 seconds or something like that, and then you get to shoot 34 more times where you have to fire again. Like most games, especially like in the difficulties most people play out, you're not firing that much. So yeah, this weapon is just disgusting. The only place it really lacks is in like consistent boss damage, but everything else dies in one shot. No real skill required. Definitely the flame staff equivalent of the veteran. One of the
It's
more
just-
egregious range weapons
yeah.
in the game. Who balanced it? I would posit the answer is nobody.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about
Yes.
a very nicely balanced weapon I like a lot, and that is the bolt pistol. The bolt pistol is definitely a build around this
Yeah,
tier weapon.
I like the
Regarding
bolt
hitting this.
pistol.
The
It's a
reason it
it's a
goes in this
pretty
tier is
solid
because
weapon.
This weapon has unique
It's very
synergies.
enjoyable
This
to
weapon
use.
can uniquely provide buffs to explosives. So both grenades and like anything with an AoE, like rocket launchers. If you simply have this in your inventory and you take the proximity blast or whatever it's called blessing, you get a big buff to the radius of those explosions, which is like pretty fucking cool. I love this as a concept. I love that there's a weapon in the game that can just be slotted in your secondary. Hey, it might not be like the best secondary. It's pretty close to being the best secondary, but it might not be like the best gun in the world, but it has this sort of unique, bespoke mechanic that you would want for certain builds. And in addition to that, it can also apply bleeds with puncture, which is quite nice and handy. It
Mhm.
is quite snappy and responsive. It's just like kind of like a better it's a better sidearm, I think, than the revolver at this point, quite honestly, because the revolver
Yeah,
on most
I can see that.
targets
Yeah.
is overkill. The sole thing that the revolver has over this gun is that the revolver can kill crushers and carapace armored targets. This weapon really can't. But you know, most targets aren't that. So yeah, you get this gun. Now, as to what mark I prefer, for the longest time I was preferring the standard mark, this one right up here. But recently I have become a convert to the area of effect one. It does enough damage to be killing hordes, etc. And it seems to have a much more stable like ability to shoot and hit headshots with the sights being a little bit better. And its headshots, its direct damage is still plenty to get those one shots. And yeah, this weapon is really good. It's awesome on Grenade Veteran. It's a good sidearm for Arbites. It's a good sidearm for Zealot. It is very good on Hive Scum, actually, because Hive Scum, of course, has a
Yeah.
rocket launcher, which can be with 25% extra AoE, Jesus Christ, and infinite ammo, which is the one place where this weapon does fall down a little bit, is as a low ammo supply. But, of course, Hive Scum doesn't give a fuck about that. So, yeah, really, really solid weapon. Definitely one of the best sidearms of the game and build defining. So I got to give it the build around this tier. Then we'll talk about the Grenade Gauntlet, which I will put. This is quite a consideration.
I would probably put it in a fine backup tier. I wouldn't really put it on build around. Let's see what he does.
Here, I'll put this at the top of a fine backup tier.
Yeah.
I don't think that this Grenade Gauntlet rises to the level of being built around. It is certainly a quality weapon in the sidearm slot for the Ogryn, in probably the most effective way to play the Ogryn, which is with shield and taunt, right? But it is only just a backup, right? It can quickly enable steady aim, which will give you braced toughness regen over time, but it isn't really doing anything too exemplary on its own. The weapon is fine. It's got the ability to snipe somewhat effectively. It's got a little bit of an AoE. It's got a good ammo supply now that they buffed the ammo supply. Decent amount of damage. But I think that the thing that really has always irked me about this weapon is it does not have a tracer or like a indicator of the trajectory of the firing path. For some reason, when you're bracing the Rumbler, you get that. But this weapon, even though it still has an arc, does not. And that makes it kind of frustrating to hit distant targets with, which is something that's, I think, really holding it back. Outside of that, I think this weapon is like balanced in terms of the damage that it does. It does fuck all against like armored targets, really. But I think that's by design. And it does have a good bit of impact. So like it'll stagger and bowl enemies around, and it can be used to counter like mutants and things because it has pretty good damage against maniacs. It can disrupt mutants and stuff like that. Not mutants. What am I trying to say? Ragers. Ragers can get disrupted by this. So yeah, not a bad weapon at all. Definitely one of the more solid sidearms. Probably the most dependable sidearm that he's got because you get 5 shots. You can brace this thing. It's got its own like attack patterns and stuff like that. So yeah, I'll give it a fine backup tier. I think that is going to be superseded by the Rumbler. I'll put the Rumbler in the build around this tier. Not to say that on most builds the Rumbler is like more powerful, but on the whole, the Rumbler is a more powerful weapon. I don't know if
it is.
anymore I would
totally
place
agree.
this into the who balance this tier though, because Rumbler is very ammo hungry at doing what it does, and we are kind of in this weird spot where the lower difficulties in the game, the Rumbler doesn't really shine. If you've ever played a lower difficulty and you've maybe tried to make Ogrenheimer build do a thing, you're playing on Heresy, it doesn't make any sense, right?
No.
You won't really produce the results you would expect because, like, the Rumbler's just overkill for everything at that level, and the packs aren't large enough to really do anything. It's
really good at high
especially
density.
with a lot of the modifiers that have been added in recently, like the pink modifier, like rotten armor, like the green range damage reduction modifiers. This weapon, it is very, very good at the large pack sizes that the higher difficulties like Auric and Maelstroms and especially Havoc provide, but the ammo consumption is a big problem, and the resistance to damage that a ton of those enemies have is a really, really big problem for it. So when you start not killing on 2, 3, 4 grenades on targets, you start very quickly realize that, oh shit, like I am wasting too much ammo and taking too much time and not getting too much results. Not to say that this isn't a super, super powerful weapon, right? Being able to whip out a grenade just to disrupt the whole area in the pinch, these grenades still also instantly kill Reapers and things like that, and they can deal some pretty immense damage to bosses, but I just don't think it is as broken as it once was back before Havoc has crept to the point where it is. I don't know at what point it did. I feel like maybe it was around the fall patch of last year, but it seems like over time, Havoc has gotten more and more insane to the point where now, like, I feel like I'm just having to shoot too much in order to deal the effective damage I need to with this weapon. Although it is still just the most powerful weapon, pound for pound, in terms of making your range damage count on the Ogryn.
Yeah, I
And then we will
totally
leave
agree.
the Ogryn for dead, since we gotta go talk about some high scum weapons. Let's go ahead and address a couple of these, and we'll come back after a brief non-hive scum hiatus. Let's talk about the stub pistols here first. I will put these in a fine backup tier. I think that's all I can really give them. The
Hmm.
brace stub pistols are easily the least sort of stellar of their brethren. They have a good bit of stagger. They can deal some okay headshot damage. I love the way they reload super fast, and I like the little twirling silly thing for sniping. They clearly put a lot of thought into the weapon, and it is balanced, but it doesn't really shine with anything range focused hive scum. So like,
So my opinion on these pistols are they're fun to use. They're just not that good. Like there's definitely better stuff on the what you call it, the hive scum. They're I would guess they're fine for sniping specials and stuff like that, but other than that, they're not really. I mean, I wouldn't say they're any better than the. I mean, I would actually go as far as saying they're worse than the revolvers, just because the revolvers hits really hard and you can take down crushers with them really easily. You'll have a hard time taking down a crusher with the dual pistols there. They're just not they're just not that good, in my opinion. I would honestly, I would probably have down tiered them. I would have put them in a fine waste of ammo. They're fun to use. They serve a purpose, but that purpose can be what you call solved way easier by any of the other guns in a fine backup category. That's just yeah. I would tier them down, honestly.
going into a range focused build where you're trying to juice your range weapon to the maximum, this is not your choice. They just aren't going to play very well in that case. But they are a great backup for melee hive scum because they are very quick to equip, they're very quick to reload, they have good ammo counts, they have good stagger, and they have fairly efficient time to kill. Is it my favorite secondary for a melee hive scum? Probably not, because there's
No.
one weapon that really stands out for that because
Mm-hmm.
it's stupid as fuck. But yeah, they're fine, and
And a needle
they're
pistol.
fun to use, and
It's
those
good,
are
really
the
good on
secret
melee
weapons.
melee
Would I
hype.
do anything to
Yeah.
this weapon to make it more powerful? I think that they should make this weapon like have armor penetration of some sort, if only on the
Yes.
weapon special, like swinging it around. Maybe that could have a good bit of rending or something. It just sucks that we have a weapon that effectively is not all that different in the playstyle from the dual Uzis, and the dual Uzis outperform in DPS in like every other way. It would make
Mm-hmm.
sense to me if this weapon could penetrate armor, and that would be the one way that it stands above the Uzis.
Yeah,
Right
that
now, it's
that's
just
what I
getting a
thought
little
it would do,
overshadowed
but it didn't.
by the dual auto pistols, the dual Uzis, the doozies. This is a build around this tier weapon. Obviously, this is like the de facto Desperado, de facto like gun spam. It's between this and your Vrax Mark V in terms of bullet hose sort
Hmm.
of styled hive
Yeah,
scums.
I
Both
agree.
have
I agree with that.
very respectable sort of outputs. If you can juice your crit chance super high and go for headshots, this weapon is going to come out ahead. If you're just going for overall spray and pray that'll shoot them in the chest and watching the raw damage melt them down, then the dual Uzis is your choice here. I would highly recommend with these weapons, especially if you're going for a Desperado build, to spec into Speed Loader as one of your blessings, because these weapons do have kind of a ludicrously long, well, I mean, it makes sense, right? They're big ass weapons. It would be annoying to reload 2 magazines and get them back to functional, but the reload is long on these, especially in comparison to the dual stub pistols. So yeah, playing around that, speed loader is a great addition to them, and the blessings for that. The mandatory blessings is Blaze Away. You have to choose Blaze Away with these. It's
Yeah.
just got disgusting synergy, stacking strength, stacking damage, stacking stagger as you continue to fire, and then you refresh with Desperado and get a full mag of like 40% juice damage. Quite juicy. These weapons are a ton of fun. They feel cool. Yeah, definitely build around this tier. Very powerful, and again, literally could only ever function on a class like the Hive Scum, because otherwise you'd be through your ammo in about 8 seconds. Let's talk another specific weapon specific to a class. We'll do the Void Blast Staff. Build around this tier, for sure, right? This weapon, the choice of experienced and non-meta clinging psychers
really
around
good.
the world.
It's the same staff I'm using right now on my Psycho. I flipping love this staff. Just because of the blast radius, and you can spread fire with it. And if you have what you call it, kinetic flare with a brain rupture, it will just randomly like kill specials in the horde, which is really funny.
This is for psychers who really want to test their skills in positioning and really use the full gamut of what you can do with your psyker skills and your staff skills in this game. I really like the design of this weapon. The fact that it does have sort of a mini game to skill in itself of figuring out how to aim at distant targets, moving your little reticle around and looking up and down to get it to cast at a certain distance, figuring out how big a cast you need to do to finish off certain enemies, casting it on yourself and then sliding or canceling the cast very quickly in order to get another cast out on the back end. Just a super cool weapon, not equal parts, but has a good bit of its power invested in defense and crowd control as well, which I think is kind of unique and flavorful for the Psyker. And yeah, it seems like this is like what I would look to as a balanced but powerful Psyker staff. And if this was the pinnacle of Psyker staff power in the game, I think
that would be fine.
Unfortunately, we have to talk about the other who balanced this weapon, or one of them anyway.
The flame staff,
staff. This weapon is just comically imbalanced. I think there's really no two ways about it. Simply just walking through a level and left-clicking and venting a little bit, you can incapacitate every ranged enemy in the map. That's one of a myriad of ways that this weapon is not balanced. It breaks the game. If you've not noticed this yet, guys, this weapon suppresses all ranged enemies hit. So normally gunners would be shooting at you, and that would be like a limiting factor for this weapon, right? Because they're going to take a little while to die because it's got a lingering flame effect. Nope, for whatever reason, this weapon has the immediate effect of panicking enemies the first time they are touched by its fire at all. So all ranged enemies just cease to do what they're doing entirely. You can also left-click on Ragers, which would be another potentially threatening enemy to a staff like this, because they don't die extremely quickly, and they are extremely aggressive, so they can get on you and melee you dead before you have a chance to get away, right? Unfortunately, for whatever reason, this weapon is designed so that the left-click, again, knocks them back. It has enough knockback to knock Ragers out of their aggressive swings, so you can just be perfectly safe against them as well, while building up...
It's a really strong staff.
Then you have to consider the damage potential per full peril load. So how many casts can you get out of this weapon before you overload on peril? Before you need to vent, before you need to do quell?
A lot.
It's easily twice, I don't have the numbers in hand, but it's easily twice as many as Electrokinetic staff for some reason, and still more than the Void Blast staff, even though every cast of this weapon does more effectively than any other staff, any of the other 3 staffs in the game. So every fully charged cast effectively has like insane damage potential. This weapon has Blaze Away, which can scale its stagger potential, its damage potential, and it can stay stacked up either on quickly casting repeated short blasts of the charge, or on spamming left click over and over, which just allows you to boost the damage of the damage over time effect by 40% as well. If this weapon wasn't powerful enough as a direct damage dealer with a massive 15-meter cone, and I was at some point going to do a video to talk about this and break down the geometry of these weapons, but the area of the circle that's covered by the Void Blast staff is pretty finite. It's not all that big. The area of this cone, which is a 15-meter long, I want to say
I mean, on the Void Blast staff, dependent on the blessings you're using, right? So if you're using the blessings where you can spread a lot of flame, the Void Blast staff is absolutely massive in size. Like it's yeah, it is so big. Um, and what you call it? I think the benefit of the Paganis flame or the what's it called the flame staff, whatever. It's it's just easier to set people on fire. Well, that's what it does, right? Um, and with some talents in the tree, you can just set a whole horde on fire because the fire will just jump to the nearest target behind it. So you'll just burn a horde before, well, the horde can even do anything.
A 30-degree wide cone is massive. It is genuinely massive. And the fact you can swing it around at a moment's notice, like the fact that it doesn't like lock your camera in a direction or something, just means that there's really is no limitation to to what you can do with that cone and what you can get the damage on. So all you have to do is spray it in the general direction of enemies. And once you're done spraying it, it has a extremely long-lasting, lingering effect called Soul Blaze. And Soul Blaze can stack up to, why do I always misremember this number?
16
It's
stacks,
not 16, but it's like 17 or whatever. 15? It's 15? I think it's 15. No, I think it's 15. Okay. Whatever it is. The maximum stack of Soul Blaze is high, and they take a long ass time to fall off. And so effectively, once you get those stacks on enemy, which doesn't take very long, it takes like one cast to get this max stacked on enemies, they will effectively burn for thousands of damage over the next few seconds, during which time all you have to do is focus on not getting hit by these enemies. And granted, you are up to 15 meters away from them, and you're a very fast character, so you can just use your mobility and stay out of range forever. When we consider a weapon like the Purgatus Flamer, which has a very similar damage profile, right? It has Blaze Away, it has the ability to apply burn stacks up to 16 stacks, it has pretty impressive direct damage. The compensation for it is that it takes a long time to equip this weapon. The weapon is very ammo hungry and it has a long reload animation, and you're very slow when you're wielding it. It's hard to be mobile and evade attacks while you're doing your thing. This weapon ignores all of those rules
Yeah,
and is able
all
to
of it.
act
Yeah.
as an effectively infinite ammo flamethrower with full mobility and no ammo penalty whatsoever. And so for the vast majority of difficulties in the game, it just amounts to, oh, I can just group up all the enemies in this area and burn them all down in a matter of seconds. And it's such a fire and forget weapon, simply fire and forget, it took no skill, because you can just simply apply damage over times to every single thing and then go about your merry day doing something else while everything else dies.
Yep.
For whatever reason, this staff also has perfect synergies because of Soul Blaze with tons and tons of Psyker talents. Right, there are Psyker talents under Warp Siphon that specifically give you Warp Siphon charges when you get a kill with Soul Blaze. Guess which weapon in the game is the most effective at spreading Soul Blaze? The best weapon in the game. Guess which weapon also can pick up additional crit chance with Soul Blaze and regenerate toughness over time? This weapon. Guess which weapon for some reason can crit and generate you the benefit of metal and get you get you regeneration from critting? This weapon. Guess which weapon can generate crit and therefore get empathic evasion to trigger, which makes you immune to range damage for 1 second, and it repeatedly crits over and over because the thing is hitting like 9 times a second? It's the Purgatus Staff, guys. It's this weapon. So this weapon is at once an offensive and defensive powerhouse, and the most irritating thing about it is that it doesn't really require a very high modicum of skill to use.
No,
I've
it
gone on
doesn't.
record at this point saying that I don't have any problem with weapons in the game, especially like melee weapons, having high potential damage results. You know, with certain builds that are like hive scum melee builds that are extremely high risk, high reward. You're getting in there, you're seriously juicing and pumping. But this sort of playstyle is super uninteractive. As I said at the beginning, you literally disable all ranged enemies from shooting you at all. Half of melee enemies are staggered by just left-clicking spamming with this weapon. And the only enemies that threaten you in any way, shape, or form are, of course, like crushers and metal enemies and bosses that aren't staggered. It does have kind of middling damage against those, but of course, you've got tons of other teammates who can easily focus on these targets and kill them once everything else has been melted and turned into Soul Blaze Ash. So yeah, is if I need to rant about it anymore, this weapon is completely comically overtuned, and I think that the Psyker
It
would be
is.
better for it if we could give power to every other staff, and then just nerf this one down. Have Psychers play with anything else for any amount of time, and I promise you, like, it would be such a more exciting, a more well-rounded experience. And also give them a couple of stats while we're at it. I'm not done with the Who Balanced this tier, by the way. I'm certain that those of you who know are in the know, are also going to put it up there. We'll talk about this, our lovely shot pistol and shield. This is a fine backup
Yeah,
for
I agree.
Arbides. The weapon is unique in that it has a shield for a range weapon. Quite cool, right? Arbides gets a ton of benefits in his talent tree from blocking, and being able to block with your range weapon means you can free up your melee weapon to not have the shield, so you can encroach on enemies in trench positions while you are wielding your range weapon. You can aim over it and you can shoot them. This thing has a pretty high stagger potential too, and a good amount of killing potential. You now have, I forget what the blessing is called, but while you're aiming down the sights, you can stack up to 40% additional power, which is quite good. That's usually the blessing, one of the blessings that I choose. And yeah, the limiting factors here: super slow reload speed, can't reload while blocking, which I think that makes sense, right? And
Yeah.
of course, the ammo capacity is very low. But the utility of just the shield, even if you were completely out of ammo, is honestly quite valuable. It is quite a good thing to have a shield somewhere slotted in your build. Now, I'll give a quick sort of summary of the double-barrel shotgun here. The double-barreled shotgun is, I'm going to say at this point, a fine waste of ammo. Unfortunate that the combat shotguns kind of leapfrog this thing. At some
So-
point, the combat shotgun
So I hard disagree with this, right? Because on Hivescom you can two tap a crusher with the double barrel shotgun. Also the yeah, that double barrel shotgun is just I don't know, man. If you build it right and you get it accurate, you can snipe with it. Like it in my humble opinion, this should just be in for Hivescom specifically. You can build around it, right? So for Hivescom, it should be up there. And yeah, really only for Hivescom. It works on Hivescom. It doesn't work on really any other class than that. Sadly. But yeah, as an overall for every other class, yeah, I would tend to agree, but it's a waste of ammo. But on Hivescom, it's pretty powerful.
shotguns were down here, and this guy was up here. But the double barrel just it doesn't really have any selling points at this point because of its incredible like inability to deal with anything armored, and the fact that like there's tons and tons of weapons that can do what it does, which is just killing a target that's 1 inch from you. Like, you could just keep meleeing effectively and do what this weapon does at this point. It doesn't have any ability to kill things at beyond a immediate range. The one role this weapon still fills is the ability to quickly swap to it and snap off a shot. Say with like a weapon specialist build on the veteran, or you could do hive scum as well. But the inability to guarantee the kill with that shot because of the poor accuracy and the huge damage fall off here really sucks. And so for those two positions, or for those two sort of builds, I would just recommend running something like revolver instead, right? This weapon has the same sort of reload necessity, where like reloading a single bullet is very, very valuable, takes a long time to do normally. So you can get a guaranteed bullet that will guaranteed kill whatever you take a millisecond aim at, versus this weapon, which may or may not do that. And this weapon can armor penetrate and go at long range, and this one can't. I think that there should be an extra special carve out made for.
I mean, by itself, sure, it can't. But with different builds that buffs it and helps it a lot, yeah, it can. It absolutely can. It does a crap load of damage if you build it correctly, especially on Hivescum.
For weapons that have these sort of self-imposed limitations, right? I'm specifically talking about the double-barreled shotgun and the Ripper guns, which I think are probably the two most like hugely gimped weapons in the game in terms of their range of efficacy. These weapons trade off so much damage potential to have a short range. They should be getting compensated for this in some way, and yet I really just don't feel like they are, right? When you expect to see a super shotgun, right? These are shotguns. This is the Doom super shotgun. Where's the super, right? This should be the ability that this thing should have in terms of dealing damage, because its range is omega nerfed, especially compared to what these weapons are able to do in terms of range and precision now.
Yeah, true. It's
It
not a
should
long-range
be
weapon.
compensated for that in a big way. Same with the Ripper guns here, right? When you're talking about these big, heavy caliber shotguns, we should have high damage because their accuracy sucks, and we're just not getting either. So I don't necessarily know what you would do to the double barrel shotgun. It doesn't make any sense that it'd be able to like cleave armor or whatever it is, but it would be very cool if, for instance, this gun could impact and stagger any target, like a crusher. Shooting a crusher in his armor would stagger him, regardless of whether or not it does damage or something like that. I don't know. Just some ideas, some food for thought. A very fun weapon. I like playing with it. It's just that I don't think you'll generate very much potential effect out of it at this point playing with it, and it just doesn't serve very well in the role of a good backup weapon. Now, let's talk about the needle pistols.
Who balanced these?
This one is the broken one, right? I mean, both of them are pretty broken. It doesn't really matter. I think this is the Mark II. Either way, the needle pistol's stupid. The needle pistol's just gonzo bananas broken. The toxin is such a crazy status effect. It stacks to 30. It has 0.9 damage effectiveness versus Carapace, meaning it literally almost doesn't even care that Carapace exists at all. This weapon has pinpoint precision when you're standing still and aiming with it. It has infinite ammo because it's Hive Scum, and you can use Pickpocket. It can synergize with tons of stuff on the class, and one of them, I believe it's this one, the Mark II, can spread toxin to nearby enemies when they die. Yeah. If you were trying to figure out like which one you should be using, it's that one, because that blue, when you swap to the blue mode and it's able to spread that toxin to nearby enemies and therefore also is able to clear hordes, is bananas. You can literally out DPS anybody else in your team, barring like maybe one of the other users of these two power weapons here, by just running a support scum who goes in and just shoots Tox Pistol at everything. You'll top the charts in terms of boss damage easily, because all you have to do is shoot the boss 5 times, 6 times, and then shoot him 1 time every couple of seconds. He ticks for thousands of damage, right? You'll deal half of a boss's damage with Tox Pistol with 0 additional effort. Just shoot him a couple times, let him rip. Shoot every crusher 2 times, they're dead. Shoot your blue version into the hordes and watch them all explode. Just like, I understand what they're going for here, and I understand that the limiting factor is supposed to be that there is limited ammo available, but Pickpocket exists. And so then we have a problem there. And the damage over time effects in this game are always going to be like omega good, because then all you got to do is like stall for time. This is just the best weapon as a sidearm for any non-ranged Hive Scum build, because
I agree.
It's so much effective damage added to your build. Hey, you don't have a perfect counter to crushers? It's okay. Bring this weapon, shoot them 3 times, they're dead. Shoot the bulwark 2 times while their shield is they're not aware and their shield isn't up. He's dead, right? Shoot any other enemy in the game. Shoot a gunner, a plasma gunner, I don't think a mauler dies in 1. A mauler die in 2 though. But like every special dies in 1 shot to this. No recoil, right? No fuss. They're dead to the damage over time effect. Does insane boss damage, can horde clear, whatever else it is. So yeah. Stupid weapon. I don't exactly know what they would do to balance it. Probably make it just not get any ammo back from Pickpocket or something like that. But yeah, ridiculous that this weapon can solo carry the entire class. Oh, and of course, this weapon also has stripped down. This weapon is so good that it has 0 blessings that buff its damage in any way, shape, or form, and it is still in the Who Balanced This tier. Because this weapon can run stripped down as one of its blessings, and then you can sprint around while you have this weapon out, because Hive Scum regenerates stamina so quickly. You can run and sprint while you have above 50% stamina, and then slide, and you'll regenerate your stamina while you're sliding. And so you can just be invincible to range attacks while you're sprinting around with this gun. So it's not only a DPS, boss killing, special sniping, carapace removing powerhouse.
It's
but
also just not
has
die.
utility to run through lines of fire and get yourself to safe positions. So disgusting weapon. Who balanced it? I don't know. I would guess the lowest paid intern. And let's move on to our last weapon, Shredder Auto Pistol. Who balanced this tier? Best weapon in the game. Thanks for watching, guys. Good night, everybody. Okay, all right, you got me. Shredder Auto Pistol. It's a pretty good weapon in some facets. I will give it a fine backup tier.
Yeah,
it's
it's
fine
okay.
backup.
It's
It's a little bit of waste of ammo at times, but you know what? I have seen some positivity with it on the Arbites, on Zealots, right? These classes that primarily are focused around meleeing and really don't need a whole lot in terms of the range weapon. The Shredder Auto Pistol is quite good for them. They can be mobile, and this ability, or this weapon, has the ability to regenerate your toughness for you, which is kind of cool. Being able to just shoot some bullets and get your toughness back for free is pretty sick. So yeah, it's called Inspiring Barrage, right? So Inspiring Barrage is one of the best reasons to use this. The other reason to use this is this weapon has crazy stagger potential, and this is what I was alluding to way earlier when I was talking about the other weapon that just makes the braced auto guns irrelevant. Yeah, it's the Shredder Auto Pistol. The Shredder Auto Pistol is better braced auto gun at this point, because not only does it have better
That's
movement
crazy.
speed, it has
That's
better
honestly crazy.
accuracy, it has better DPS, it has better stagger potential, it has better crit potential, what have you. And this weapon actually fucks on the Hive Scum too, because he can reload it super fast and he can shoot all the bullets and he has infinite ammo. And it's also, honestly, like, not that ammo hungry to boot. But most of the time it's just going to be utility, a nice little side utility that you can pull out in a similar vein to the Ogren's grenade gauntlet there, where it's like, yeah, you can regenerate your toughness with this in a pinch, and you can also use it to dispatch annoying trappers and such like that. I would not ever use it as a main weapon, but it's very capable in the right hands of being a fine backup. So yeah, there you go. That is the tier list overall. Tell me what you think in the comments, guys. I think I'm feeling pretty confident about the stuff I put in trash. And when I say things are down here, trust me, I want the best for these weapons, right? I'm not gloating over the fact that stuff is down here and sucks, except for the Vigilant Autoguns and the Ripper Guns,
Yeah.
and actually pretty much almost all these except for the Braced Autoguns I hate, so they can stay in there forever. But yeah, my hope, my wish for the game is that everything will end up here. And if you look at it, in my opinion, most things are up here. They're either very useful as a sidearm for a melee main character, or they are good enough to be the big banana themselves, to run the show. The only other
Yeah, so I mostly agreed with everything now. It's just some points I disagree with a bit, but that comes down to builds and stuff like that, right? But yeah, most of everything now I agree with. That's pretty cool. Well, that has been the tier list stuff for for Dark Tide. I mean, you got my opinion of it and Mr. E's opinion also. So yeah, that was that for the tier list stuff. Well, thanks you all for watching, and hope everybody having a good day. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, and follow all that good stuff. And I'll see you in the next one. See ya.
In the shadows of a dying star, he rose. were forged, where the warm winds froze. Steel in his veins, the Emperor's creed. Zonex the savior, born to lead. Glory to Zonex, flame of the throne, bearer of light, where darkness has grown. In his holy name, the heretics fall. Zonex our legend, the Emperor's call. From the high world's ash to the black void seas, he spoke of duty upon his knee. With bolter and blade he carved his law, and chaos trembled at what they saw. Glory to Zonex, flame of the throne, bearer of light, where darkness has grown. Through blood and ruin, his honor stands tall. Zonex our legend, the Emperor's call. No demons whisper, no say, no cry could shake his faith beneath the sky. For mankind's hope